in, ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous, maybe a terrific Tuesday evening here on the network. We got a loaded one for you guys tonight, but first I want to start with this. Patience. Patience is very, very rare these days in college football. I'm going to rattle off some names for you. Julian Sanders, Dante Moore, Malachi Nelson, Austin Mack, Quinn Ewers. Those are all top 250 players. Those were all quarterbacks who entered the transfer portal within 12 months of enrolling at their initial program. Some of those football players obviously had some coaching, changes that impacted that decision. But nonetheless, this has become, through the transfer portal and through NIL and through all the things with the world of college football nowadays, with the coaching changes included, this has become an extremely impatient position, so much so that we have things going on where, like, I could list Dillon Gabriel in this list of quarterbacks who spent less than 12 months at a particular Power 5 program, right? And why is Dillon Gabriel on this list? Well, he spent 3 years at UCF, 2 of those years, I believe, starting. And then I think he spent 1 year behind Mackenzie Milton before Mackenzie Milton snapped his leg in half.
Yes.
And then, transferred to Oklahoma. And he gets pushed out of Oklahoma despite being at one point in the Heisman contention, I think, after beating Texas, right? Gets pushed out of Oklahoma because they're so worried about Jackson Arnold, the next guy, matching or fitting this description of another highly talented football player who was potentially maybe a little too impatient to stick it out and stick around, right? So when you do see players, or particularly at the quarterback position, when you do see players that stick around and are patient, please, as college football fans listening to this today, please be appreciative of those football players because they are very, very rare, right? When you find football players that are patient and have waited their time to become a starter, I would often argue that you should probably bet on those players. 9 times out of 10, those guys actually go on to have, a relative amount of success, right? You look at Carson Beck this last year, one of the more notorious examples of a football player who waited his time, right? You look at Mac Jones at Alabama. It hasn't panned out in the NFL, but you look at Mac Jones' time at Alabama, waited his time and finished, I think, 3rd in the Heisman after 1 year of starting him and went on to become a first-round draft pick. Most of these examples of those who stick around, they end up paying off. And that brings us to our next guy, which was Arch Manning. When Arch Manning committed and signed and enrolled at the University of Texas, I would imagine the plan, or at least the calendar, looked like, hey, we're going to sit for a year. Quinn Ewers is going to start his second year at Texas with Steve Sarkisian, and then he's going to go on to the NFL. That was probably the presumptions, or at least that was everyone on the outside looking in's presumptions of this room. Hey, it looks like they're going to have another year of Quinn, get a year for Arch Manning to kind of assimilate himself from, private school Louisiana, New Orleans football to SEC football come 2025. Well, now we look at the calendar, we look at the situation and the nature of events at Texas, and you have a player like Arch Manning now looking at his second year of sitting on the bench. And by all accounts, by anybody I trust and any reporting that I trust, it didn't sound like there was any wavering this offseason from the Manning camp and the Manning household with regards of whether or not, they were going to stick it out down there in Austin. All right. And I think there's a lot of rules or a lot of things at play here as to why Texas is able to keep a football player like this that you would imagine wants to get onto the field. A lot of people will rush to NIL being an impactful decision-making here. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I think the number one contributing factor to Arch Manning staying at Texas, gentlemen, is the fact that I don't think this camp and this Manning family and this Manning Foundation wants to be a part of the circus anymore. I think they had plenty of the taste of the circus coming out during his original recruitment process. I think they got a taste of what being the most coveted football player in America feels like. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they necessarily loved it. I don't think they necessarily loved Cameron Cruz being at every high school football practice. I don't think they necessarily loved having to, hey, coach, can we stop doing interviews? High school football coach, can we stop talking about Arch? I don't think they necessarily loved all of the the mechanisms that come with the machine around being the number one and, again, most coveted football player available. So I think that was the major reason behind sticking these things out at Texas. But, again, I think you have to tip your cap to Arch and the Manning family for being patient here, knowing the talent that they believe that he has and that everyone assumes that he has. And we saw a little taste of it this year. It seems like he's going to be the guy that we believe he was sold and marketed to be coming out of high school. However, I think this is the biggest point about this discussion, right? Him sticking it out, him not going to the portal, him being patient, Malik Murphy being the one that actually gets bumped out, right, in that room. I think you have to be honest about the idea that Arch Manning's now going to be the starting quarterback at Texas, not only for 2025, but you would presume 2026 as well, because I don't think they're going to allow this guy to enter the NFL draft without multiple years of starting experience because of what they know about that 25 start threshold, right? What it means for your, not necessarily guarantees, but your ability and your statistical chances to be a success story in the NFL drastically improve upon multiple years of starting in college football. So I think that's what this means. I think you're going to get Arch Manning for 2 years, and ultimately in the city of Austin, you're going to be riding the Arch Manning wave for 4 full years of college football. And I don't think anybody going into this situation thought that was going to be the case. We'll get the boys' thoughts on that whole situation out in Texas here in just a second. But I want to welcome you guys into tonight's show. We do indeed have a loaded one for you guys. Top 5 quarterbacks available in this year's NFL draft. I'm going to go through my rankings. The boys are going to pick it apart. There's some odds coming out about a Power 5 football coach, and these are actually gambleable odds in his state where he is coaching. So it's pretty miraculous. It's pretty odd. It's pretty odd, if you will, to be seeing something like this. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We have debuted Tier Talk. All right. I don't know if anybody's doing the tiers. I see power rankings everywhere in college football, opinion given. We do Tier Talks around here. We're going to break out the ACC edition of Tier Talk tonight, and we're going to give them 3. Biggest transfers, top 3 transfers, in our opinion, that have made moves this offseason and their impacts on their new team. And the college football playoff has finally announced their final move to the 12-team playoff. Not final move. I'm sure there'll be some reiterations of this 12-team playoff eventually. But they finally gave us the kind of lay of the land of what the 12-team playoff is going to look like starting this college football season. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. If you haven't already, please run over to prizepicks.com today and sign up using promo code Brooks. You'll get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100, you will get matched instantly with $100 in your account over there. That's what it means. Deposit match. Whatever you deposit, they fit in a match as long as you use that promo code Brooks. So run over to Prize Picks today. Get in on the action. There's some good stuff going on over there. Boys, welcome in. What do you think about the patience being shown by the Manning camp? And I want to propose this question to you guys and the chat. Does something like this, does the patience like this exist if NIL does not exist?
The patience honestly doesn't shock me too much because we saw patience with his recruitment in high school. This was a guy that hand-selected Texas, and it took time for that decision to be made. It never seemed like there was any wavering or committing to a school and then decommitting or any of that. It was, we're going to play out this entire process, make sure that we end up at the school that we want to, make sure that Arch ends up with the coach that he specifically wants. And once he was with Texas, it was locked down and loaded, and that's where he ended up. So the patience and continuing to wait on that doesn't necessarily surprise me. As far as, and again, with the NIL stuff too, honestly, I feel like maybe it does exist for Arch Manning in this scenario, because I feel like even when Peyton or Eli talks about this, they mention Sark's name into this of this is who he wanted to come play with. So I would like to think that in a world without NIL, that Arch would wait it out and continue to wait it out because this is who he wanted to play for.
I don't think patience like this exists if the name Manning isn't on the back of his jersey, because Arch Manning is one of the few players that has that luxury where he can say, you know what, I don't need to play freshman year, sophomore year. I can wait till my junior year because, I'm Arch freaking Manning. The media's going to follow me wherever I go. There's that viral picture of Quinn Ewers having 3 reporters around him, and meanwhile Arch is swamped at media days because even though he's the backup quarterback, just because the name Arch Manning has that much draw. So I think the fact that Arch has that much draw allows for him to maybe say, you know what, I don't need to be in the spotlight right now because even though I'm not playing or starting, the spotlight still follows me around. So I think that helps a lot in that decision. I don't think every quarterback – actually, I think most quarterbacks won't have this type of luxury.
Are you of the same belief that I am, that this kind of guarantees we're going to get basically 4 years of Arch Manning at Texas?
Yeah.
It kind of seems like that's how every quarterback feels at this point is
Yeah.
like there's no more this thing of you go start 12 games and you go to the NFL. It doesn't seem like people feel that
I
way
think Trey
anymore.
Lance ruined that for everybody.
Yeah, and I
Mitch
think
Trubisky did as well.
yeah, and I think
Mac
you're all
Jones is currently doing that.
Yeah.
And I think like, guys like Carson Beck and things like that, when this draft comes around, are really going to hammer it home. Where you had a guy that could have gone to the draft this year, might have been a day 3 pick, where Carson Beck has a real legitimate chance of being the first player taken next year. So
Quinn Ewers can even be thrown in this conversation a little bit because we haven't seen a
He's on
complete
that borderline,
full
yeah.
season
He's
of
got like
him.
20 starts.
Yeah, so I think he can even be thrown into that realm.
Does that? I think that injury against Alabama completely changed the trajectory of this Texas room, to be honest with you.
oh yeah, for sure.
Right? If he doesn't get hurt, he plays all of 2022 and all of 2023 and throws for 3,500 yards in both seasons. He's probably in the NFL
He's
draft
gone.
this year, I would imagine.
I would
Absolutely.
think so too.
So, yeah, you can thank your lucky stars out there in Austin that, Quinn Ewers got hurt for that 1 year.
That's a good hypothetical. Would you trade that game
If you're a Texas fan,
if you knew what was coming after?
yeah, because they weren't ready. They weren't ready yet in terms of like they were starting 2 freshman offensive linemen. The defensive line hadn't really fully blossomed into what they became this year. That 2022 roster, even with Quinn Ewers healthy, I think they're still maybe like 10-3,
Yeah.
maybe like 9-4, and that's not what you want. You know what I mean? They're going to have 2 years now in a row where they're a top 5 program. Wire to wire, it feels.
For sure.
So you got McCoy's injury that cost you a national title, but Quinn Ewers' injury
Yeah.
got you another season of him.
Got you a deeper quarterback room for a longer extended period of time.
Yeah.
So that's good news for them. All right, so college football playoff announced their final format today. I don't know about you guys because I know my timeline was confused.
Yeah. Oh.
The reporting on this has been they're great reporters, all of them. But why I didn't go to J school. I didn't. But I don't know how they teach y'all. But I was taught as a writer and as someone who explains things, you should assume that everyone has zero knowledge.
Yes.
Okay, you should not talk over their head. I saw someone using a term called A5 today. The fuck is an A5? I guess he meant automatic bids for 5 Power 5s previously, and now we're in an A4 system. But just the reporting on this in general from top to bottom, how they worded these reports today were hella confusing because everyone was like, does that still include the Pac-2? Oh, no, you had to actually read the fine print to find out that basically what happened today was they announced that they're going to take the highest 5-ranked conference champions, which leaves a little bit of leeway for discussion, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But it basically guarantees if you win a Power 4 conference now, you not only get a top 4 bid, but you get the bye, obviously, as well. But here's my question, because basically that is the gist of what happened today. Top 5 ranked conference winners with a top 4 getting a bye, and then the rest of the top 12 per the CFP rankings. So my question, because of the wording, right? The wording is highest ranked conference champions. It did not say top 4 conference champions from the Power 4 and a group of 5 highest ranked team, which is what it was, right? What it was is, hey, Tulane finished 12-1. They're the highest ranked, group of 5 team. Let's throw them in. So my question now becomes because of this wording. Let's say Liberty goes 13-0 this year, right? Or 12-0, and they lose their conference championship to a 10-2 Troy team or whatever. Is Troy now getting into a college football playoff at the 5th overall seed at 10-2 out of a non-Power 5 or non-Power 4 traditional powerhouse conference because of this wording?
Yeah,
That's what it sounds like.
If Troy's the highest ranked at that point,
Isn't that a shit system?
yes.
For that
If
specific.
we wanted to hand a participation trophy to the group of 5, why not just do it like it was where we take the highest ranked group of 5 team?
Yeah, it definitely puts you at risk of there might be a scenario where one time you get an 8-4 group of 5 team
Yeah,
that just happened to play really well that one day.
Wasn't it last year where we just didn't – it was the year before, not this past season that just concluded, but the year before. Didn't we have no group of 5 representative at all in like the top 25? Wasn't there just like no good group of 5 team?
That
Yeah, I
sounds
think it was
right.
this
They're
year.
all like
honestly.
9-4. This year, the best team was Liberty. They finished with a 1-loss record, I believe, and they were undefeated.
They
and
were undefeated,
and got drubbed up by Oregon.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I just, if we're gonna give participation trophies out, why not make sure we give the best team an opportunity to do it? This wording of highest ranked conference champion is very weird to me.
I think it's because they're trying to protect the sanctity and the value of the conference championship. Because I mean, if Liberty goes out and loses that game and there's no punishment for it, I mean, why are you playing the games in the first place? Which is kind of what the argument was in the SEC championship this year when Georgia got left out, or the ACC championship. So I think that's kind of what the committee is trying to protect now, where there's that incentive to win your conference, especially if you're a group of 5, where that's pretty much the only way you're getting in.
So the debate on this and the conference that had to kind of plead their case to remain it at a what they call, I guess, an A6, according to reporting. To keep it at this automatic Power 5 bid was the Pac-12, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. They had to go in there and state their case that they still deserve an automatic bid for this college football playoff. And what was interesting is they put up a mighty case, apparently, and then they folded in on their own case today and were promised a $6 million incentive. Basically, they're going to get college football pay anyways, is from my understanding of it, just to shut up and leave.
Huh.
All right.
So that was interesting. It was like a, hey, don't look at this ear tab over here. They're getting $12 million over the next 2 years, $6 million apiece, basically, to go away peacefully on this discussion. So very, very interesting.
Interesting.
But I don't like the idea of leaving ourselves open to, what I'm talking about, which is, oh, shit, we got a 10-2 Big Sky or a 10-2, what is it, the MAC? We got a 10-2 MAC team coming out here and playing with a 5 overall seed in the college football playoff. That to me is going to rub me a little wrong.
I feel like that's been everybody's biggest gripe with the expansion is just the fact that we're going to automatically give a group of 5 team a bid into this college football playoff. And the whole conversation, even when it was 4, the whole conversation about letting in one of these group of 5 teams is, well, if they deserve it. Like when Cincinnati was getting into the top 4, it's like, they deserve it at that point to be a top 4 team, get your crack at it.
And let's be honest, there was no other alternative option.
Exactly. And in that scenario, it fit to put in a Cincinnati,
Correct.
and we know what the result was, and we know what Alabama did to them. But, yeah, just because we're going to 12 doesn't mean that we all of a sudden have to include them into this and automatically give them a spot in this.
Think about this. Not only does that situation present itself, but in that case where 10-2 conference champ Troy just knocked off an undefeated group of 5 and they get a 5 seed, they're getting a home game. They're getting a home game. Like we're going to be playing. Yeah, they're going to get the 5th seed.
Well, no, I think that they would be placed in the 5 through 12. And they would rank
have
them.
to get ranked.
So they'll probably be 12.
Automatic bid.
You get your auto bid.
You
You're
automatically are in.
But I don't think you get. I don't think it's.
But they're not top 5.
I don't
So
think
they
the
would be
top 5
12.
is the 5 conference champions.
Okay, so how this will this is even worse. How this will end up working, right, is they'll probably be ranked like 23rd, 24th, 25th in the real rankings, and then they'll get bumped to 12.
Yep.
Yeah.
And whoever is legitimately the 12th best team gets to go sit their ass at home.
So really, you don't want to be in the 12 spot ever.
Ever. Never.
You never want to be
ranked
sitting at 12.
The problem that the committee's doing right now is it's trying to juggle too many things. It's got.
Fairness needs to get out of here.
Yeah, well,
That's the problem.
we want to give the group of 5 a chance. We want to remain objective in the ways that we select these teams. We also want to value conference championships, which is why we have the auto bids for winning your conference championship, which is why we have auto bids for group of 5 teams that allow them to get in, and then the other 7 are up to our subjective pick. And the problem is one of those 3 categories is going to come back and bite you in the ass every time.
We trusted these 13 goofballs with like 4. Like narrow it down to 4, but yet we can't trust them to decipher whether or not a group of 5 team deserves to be one of the best 12 teams. We asked them to rank these teams objectively every single week, starting in what mid October.
About that, yeah.
And we do not trust them to decipher whether or not Cincinnati is a top 12 team in 2020, or whether or not you get what I'm saying. Like I don't understand how. We task them with that, but yet we have to say, oh, by the way, just check this box every year, give it to a group of 5, just participation trophy. It's just weird.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like all it's going to take is for it to happen one time where the group of 5 team that gets in upsets number 5 or whoever it is. And then it's going to turn in this whole conversation of, well, see, this is exactly why we want to give them an automatic bid, and it's here to stay. But I just don't – football doesn't work the same way that college basketball does. Like it's not as level of a playing field.
Don't you think they kind of retroactively rewarded Cincinnati in 2021 for playing 2020's version of Georgia close in the Peach Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fact.
People were like, oh, shit, they damn near took them to overtime.
It was going undefeated 2 years in a row and that as well.
And that. Like, we have a close football game against a team that we thought was a top 5 program in 2020. So I think that was a major contention. It wasn't just they deserved it in 2021. It was the embodiment of the work for Luke Fickell and Cincy that got them in there. And I think, honestly, like, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with them having proved 2 years in a row that they're deserving, and they went and almost knocked one of these teams off in a bowl game, and then they returned the same version or a better version of that football team, and now we know. We didn't think we know. Now we know for a fact they're a competing team. And granted, it was a 30-point game in that college football playoff game against Alabama, but the next year, but they still quote-unquote deserve to be there.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you got a Boise State that was Boise State in the early 2010s where they were a ranked team, they were competitive, and they were actually knocking off Power 5 teams or whatnot, then that's fine if you want to put them in the playoff. If they deserve it at that point. But, the whole G5 automatic bid, I've never been a fan of.
The conference champ thing's real weird to me.
Yeah.
Highest ranked conference champ team.
I mean, that's the problem with the college football format, where in divisions like the NFL, you don't have a division championship.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a pseudo division championship where the 2 highest teams are playing each other in week 16, but you don't have an actual game where their championship game is played. Yeah. And that's the problem, because how much value do you put in the championship game? Do you put so much value that it automatically puts you in the playoff, or do you put not enough value to where we're looking around going, okay, why the hell are we playing this game for? And I think there's a very thin line that you have to walk, and it seems like you can't get it right ever.
Yeah.
Ask Florida State last year.
I just think the right way to go about it is to just rank the 12 best teams, give them to me, and let's play ball. Like, the idea that we're tying this to conferences that won't even tie themselves to themselves is just stupid to me. Like, we can't get conferences to settle in on what they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, on the contrary, I think the only good thing about this is, does this type of format keep conferences like the ACC and Big 12 afloat?
Yeah, until the Big 10 and the SEC put a middle finger up to everybody and say, we're just going to go create our own Super League. Which, again, I don't know if it's going to happen, but at that point, you would think the number's like 34 right now.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you think they would go grab like the next 6 best teams: Florida State, Notre Dame, Clemson.
Well, it already sounds like that some of those teams are hunting around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and get to 40.
Yeah, like, my guess is my only rationale behind this is, like, the Pac-12 kind of collapsed because, 1, the revenue split was dog shit, and 2, there were 4 playoff teams, and Pac-12 was always the ugly duckling of the 5 conferences.
Correct.
Where now it's basically you have 4 conferences and 5 conference champions. Well, I mean, if you're like a Duke or a Syracuse, why would you want to go to the SEC or a different conference where you might get a more revenue split, but your chances of making the playoff are so much slimmer? Because, I mean, the best avenue for you if you're a Duke is being a top 25 team that ends up winning the ACC one year.
I still think the best answer to all of these issues, and I know no one, again, it's this guy sounded like the homer for the incident, but Charlie Baker's $6 million league makes more and more sense every time I think about it. Every time people try to do all this differentiation and try to figure out, how are we going to figure it all out? Well, separate the revenue sport. Yeah. Just say, okay, this revenue sport now has a salary, and the salary is $6 million a year, and if you can't afford that, then you don't play in this subdivision. And that would not, I mean, based off the data, it's going to be about 50 to 60 teams. There's your Super League right there. And now we can pay all these guys. Now we can stipulate it. Now we can deem them employees. Now we can actually do regulation. And again, just because it came from Charlie Baker's mouth, everybody's like, oh, idiot, stupid. Yeah. And most people don't even know about that. Like, people who've tuned in every single night to this network know what I'm talking about. But the random passerby just walked in and goes, what? First of all, who's Charlie Baker? I thought it was this Mark Emmert guy that everybody hated. Who's this Charlie Baker, and where'd this come from? Yeah, he's trying. No one wants to listen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only snag in that is, the $6 million revenue thing is a great idea and having them all as employees, but how are you going to stop under the table shady deals? Because, I mean, 5 years ago we were in a league where you couldn't even pay them at all. Yeah, and that was still happening. So I don't think there's a perfect answer for it.
Guys police themselves. I promise you. Like, they're trying to police themselves now by turning guys in. Is what it sounds
there's
like.
Definitely a lot of dry snitching.
There's a lot of dry snitching going on right now. But under the old system, if you drove too fast, they would turn you in.
Right.
It's the reason why schools like Ole Miss got popped. It was the reason why SMU got the death penalty that they got. You can't be out here doing reckless shit under the coaches policing themselves model. But when the NIL stuff opened up, it was like, well, we can't police ourselves because now there really are no rules, or at least his rules over there say he can do that. So what do I have to bitch about other than I need some new regulations? So I compared it to this yesterday when I was on 680 The Fan doing a hit. I joined in as they were doing all this. How's the college football landscape discussion going to be? And I basically compared it to watching a cat with a ball of yarn that's all cut up in like little 3-inch pieces, right? So you see this cat playing with this ball of yarn, and he takes his paws and he grabs one thread that's sticking out and he pulls it. And then another one pops out on the other side of the ball. And then he's like, ooh, I'm going to pull this one. And then he's just sitting there pulling threads off this ball. And now it's just that's what the discussion is. Every time we think we can solve one thing, this other problem pops right out. We're like, ooh, let's pull that one. And it's just, man, it's a mess, as you can imagine, because really, really smart people can't figure it out. So there's that. Now, this was crazy. Y'all sent this to the show chat today. And these are legitimately bettable odds on Colorado Bet Online. Is that what it is?
Yeah, some form of
Colorado Bet AG.
Bet Colorado, yeah.
Bet Colorado. You can bet on where Deion Sanders is going to coach next season. And I sit here with 6 different schools with odds all the way up to plus 1,800. And Colorado is not on the list. They're even lower.
Yeah, no.
These odds are set for where Deion Sanders will be coaching next year.
I haven't seen the odds, so what are they?
All right, so Florida plus 600, Florida State plus 600, Florida plus 1,000, Arkansas plus 1,000, Auburn plus 1,200, Miami plus 1,750, USC plus 1,750. I'll stop writing.
And then other is
Auburn.
120.
Other is 120.
Auburn.
Now, I think that this
Auburn
is specifically saying just where he'll coach next, but we all assume that
just next.
Yeah, but we all kind of assume that it's going to happen next season. That's kind of the feel that everybody gets, which is why I think it's interesting some of the schools that are on here, like Florida, we can kind of understand. Florida State, I mean, that one doesn't make any sense.
He burnt that bridge to the ground.
And, well, not only that, like Mike Norvell doesn't seem like he's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Arkansas, you can kind of understand. Auburn, not really one I'm following along with. And then,
I can understand Auburn or Arkansas from an opening standpoint, but Deion in Arkansas?
No thanks. No
I don't
thanks.
think so. You know what they'll do? They'll hire Barry Odom. You watch. If
I
they
don't
fire
hate
Sam
that.
Pittman, they'll hire Barry Odom.
I don't know if we've ever seen this before though, where before a coach is even
Announced that he's going anywhere.
Yeah,
we're out here putting odds.
we're
on
already
it.
putting odds on where he's going to be coaching next. That's got to be a first.
I got a good gamble here.
What's that?
Miami at plus 1,750. Mario Cristobal 7-5 last year, I think it was. A couple of ugly ass losses.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of Mo. Uncle Mo not showing a lot of love down there in Miami. I think ranked 24th right now in the preseason AP Top 25. If Mario is tossed to the Wolves, now this will be his third year of a 5-year contract I think he signed when he came. Or did he sign one of them 80 over 10 deals?
I don't think so.
I think Cristobal might have got a really long contract there, but check that out for me. But whatever the buyout is on that, I'm sure Miami could eat it if Deion wanted to come out to Miami. And you talking about being able to stick it to Florida State.
Oh, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, man, you'd be all over it. I think that's why Florida's so high ranked on this odds list, because they could imagine him trying to stick it. What's up?
$80 million over 10 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
so he did get 80 over 10.
You're right. I didn't think so.
Man, that's oof.
Having to go from that
That's a lot of money for a director of player personnel. You know what I mean? Like Mario Cristobal is like the greatest recruiter in the Southeast, or one of them. He's like top 10. But man, is he bad at game management. Man, is he bad. You don't like that one? Director of player personnel?
No, it's funny,
recruiter. But are we putting, like, honestly, you send it home today, Miami fan. Where is Mario Cristobal in the top 10 coaches ranks in college football? Way down.
Yeah.
Way down. But he recruits, or at least has in years past.
That would suck to have to go from paying Mario Cristobal that money or whatever the buyout would be, and then now you got to fit the price tag of someone like Deion Sanders to come coach your program.
Ouch.
But you know what? Hard Rock Stadium we filled out for the first time ever.
Yeah.
That's for dang sure. For a
That's
Miami
true.
Hurricanes game,
Facts.
it would absolutely be packed out for the first time ever.
I mean, let's be honest. I think Colorado took the quote-unquote gamble on hiring Prime for that right
Shoot.
there.
Their
They
football
wanted to
program
put
got
butts in the seats.
Yeah, they've got advancements on their football program for years now, regardless of if Deion's name is attached to it or not.
The chat brings up a good point here. Jerry Jones is obviously a massive booster for Arkansas, played there. Deion and Jerry have a pre-existing relationship. Still does commercials with Jerry, I'm pretty sure. I think I saw one recently of those two.
Is you an Affleck again?
I can't remember. But anyways, I like the Miami pick. USC, not a terrible, look there. I don't know if he's going out to LA though.
Is it crazy that I think USC is like the peak Deion Sanders job?
Yeah, I think.
Because that's
I think Deion Sanders in Florida is a scary proposition, in my opinion.
For
Deion Sanders coaching in the state of Florida is a scary proposition
Absolutely.
for everybody that recruits in that state. That state, which is every predominant program, that's a scary proposition.
Yes. Yeah, regardless of what Florida program it is.
Yeah. Any of the Power Fives down there, it's all right. Now we got a guy. We got to go fight.
Yes.
We're gonna have to fight and fight dirty. We're gonna have to fight dirty against that guy. You know what I mean? Because they out here throwing it around at Colorado. So he's got access to funds wherever he goes.
Yes, he does.
So are we good with the Deion talk?
Good.
All right, let's go on to our tier talk. We got ACC up here now. For those of you who haven't been paying attention, we believe there are 4 tiers in college football, and I have really shortened this down. Tier 1 can do it yearly. Tier 2 just can do it. Like we think it happens. Tier 3 is the Cam tier. Like you just got to buy one great player and figure out how that guy's going to be the greatest singular season performer of all time, and then maybe he can carry you to a title. And then Tier 4 is just you just can't do it. We don't believe you could ever win one. So there's that. All right, so the ACC. I believe that the ACC, here's my take on this. I believe since Clemson has become the predominant or became the predominant program in this conference, I firmly believe this is a conference that only allows one Tier 1 football team at a time.
Really?
When was the last time the ACC had 2 teams competing for a national title?
No, I agree with you.
Because when Florida State was doing it under Jimbo at the end of the Bowden regime down there, Clemson wasn't this.
No.
Clemson hadn't become this. The moment Clemson became this, the rest of the ACC ceased to exist. And one year, I think 2 years in a row, Clemson was playing Wake Forest for an ACC championship game. Like that's not it. So I am of the belief that when we have these conversations about this conference moving forward, there's only going to be one team, and there is one team in this biannual or annual contention right now, in my opinion, and it's Florida State. They have kind of cemented themselves as the one team that year in, year out, you think has a chance to at least run that conference, which will ultimately put them in the discussion for running college football.
Wow.
I agree.
Oh, jeez.
What?
I put Clemson up there.
You still
put
think
Clemson in
Clemson
tier
has
1?
a chance every year?
Yes, I do think that they have a chance every year because I have no idea what the ACC is going to look like each and every year. But I know that Clemson and Dabo Swinney are at least somewhere going to be up at the top of that conference each and every year. Like we have, like I don't think anybody can sit here with absolute confidence and say FSU going to be absolutely elite this year. We know that you have DJU. That's about where the list stops. So yeah. I don't know. I can't sit here with confidence to keep saying that FSU and I have FSU and Clemson both at the top of my list, but that's just because I have the most confidence in those two teams in that conference being able to run the table against anybody else in that conference.
I will say this. If you take either of those two teams and you throw them in the SEC or the Big Ten, they're not in Tier 1.
Yes. Agreed.
I want to give a spoiler alert.
What's up?
I don't have Clemson in Tier 2 either.
Oh, Lord. You can't.
That's dirty.
Bro, he was killing Dabo mid-season last year.
That's a little dirty.
Yeah, he was out here. He was out here murdering
Bro,
Dabo.
think about it. Your 2 national championship seasons, you had generational quarterback talent.
They also had generational defenses, though.
That's fine. I mean, you took away they had generational defenses in the years after. Take away Trevor Lawrence, take away Deshaun Watson. Clemson football has not done anything of national championship caliber.
But does he not? He did it twice. Does he not get credit for the opportunity to potentially do it a third time? You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like he one shot at it. We're not talking about Ed Orgeron.
Yeah, but if he gets another high quality, high caliber Heisman, like greatest quarterback we've seen of our time quarterback. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was tabbed as the greatest prospect of all time. Deshaun Watson was. This guy is the best college quarterback we've seen in 10 years when he was in the league, he was playing. So, I mean.
The Cam Newton tier to me, though, is like that dude had to literally put the team on his back. there were really good football players all around that Clemson roster.
That's true.
Let me ask you this, Christian. Do you foresee a year anywhere in the next 5 years where Clemson doesn't have a singular NFL player drafted?
No.
Then they're not in Tier 3. Because that's what Tier 3 is. Tier 3 is Cam Newton, Nick Fairley going to flame out, and then you can't name me a single player on those Auburn teams. You can't. Unless you were an Auburn fan at the time or a college football savant, then you might get me Joshua Dyer. You might.
You mean Michael Dyer?
Exactly. That guy. See what I mean? You might be able to get me that, or maybe an Ontario McCaleb, because you saw him run a jet sweep one time, but that's about it. Okay, so that's Tier 3, but I don't think Clemson's ever in that tier. Clemson will always have at least one or two, top 3 draft evals.
That does at least make me think that they're closer to Tier 2 maybe than they are for Tier 1 now.
Correct.
So maybe I was a little overstepping to just say that they're annual contenders.
I mean, you can't recruit like they've recruited and be an annual
fair.
contender.
Absolutely.
I don't believe.
Fair.
I think their astronomical defensive numbers the last couple of years have been because of what they did on the recruiting circuits in 2018 and 19.
Yep.
And they ain't done nothing like that since then in terms of stacking.
Well, I'm fine with just leaving it at FSU then.
All right, FSU Tier 1. Now, Tier 2, these are teams that you could see them actually winning a title. I have 3 teams here. I have Clemson, Louisville, and Miami, just because of the sleeping giant that Miami is.
Yeah, I wanted to put UNC in this category.
I did too.
I had a different.
I wanted to, but
I had
always-
a different NC school.
They're always
NC
kind of
State?
I had an NC State in here. NC State has continually been ranked.
Make the case. Is that the case?
I mean, they've been one of they've over the past years they've shown consistency to at least be a top 25 program. And so to me, if I look at the ACC and I look at the list of teams, and this was hard for me to rank all of these schools in these categories, NC State was just one of those programs where if you told me that eventually they put all the pieces together, they've had good defenses, they finally got their guy at quarterback, then it wouldn't necessarily shock me if they were to go on and maybe win a national title. It's close, so it's super close.
Did you have Louisville in this tier 2?
I did. I had Louisville in this tier as well.
I don't think I did. No, I have Louisville here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have 4 teams. Louisville's in this tier.
I was going to say, because I think Louisville, with what they did last year and the fact that you have a 12-team playoff.
Clemson, Louisville, Miami. Those are my 3 teams.
I forgot if you said Louisville or not. So, yeah, I think Louisville's definitely one of the tier 2 teams.
NC State was a final edition, just where I was like,
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. I was just looking at it. When they lose tight games. I think they had 1 double-digit loss this year, and they lost 4 games. 2 double-digit losses. They got dubbed up by Notre Dame and Duke. Outside of that, the other losses were tight. They lost by 9 to Kansas State, and they lost by 3 to Louisville. So, yeah, I'm with you in the sense that, if one year NC State, instead of going 9-4, went 12-1, and ended up in a college football playoff, I'm with you. It could happen. Now, I could not see SMU doing that unless they just balled all that Fort Worth, Dallas money into one singular player, which makes them a Tier 3 program. So, which I think is where the majority of this conference lies. Yes. I have SMU, Duke, Boston College, Georgia Tech, both the Virginia schools, Pitt, Syracuse. I put NC State and North Carolina in this division.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams that I feel like are a Superman away from being maybe the 11th best team in the country, and then who knows what happens from there. But it's the array of ACC teams is very interesting because there's so many fringe teams where it's do you absolutely have no shot, or are you just kind of one great player away? Boston College, I don't think they're ever going to have a shot, but a team
I was borderline putting them Tier 4.
I was too, but then I was like, you know what? And this was a while ago, so I don't even know if you can apply it anymore. But when they had Matt Ryan, they were a good football team. And Matt Ryan wasn't this do-it-all college football, take over the football game athlete. So I thought, you know what? Maybe in today's world, maybe there is a scenario where Boston College does get a Cam Newton, and they could go on a national title run, potentially.
That 2007 season was weird too.
Yeah, it was.
So, but no, I think the issue I run into is there's so many programs where it's that team kind of hangs around the top 25, but I never really can see them being a top 12 team. Like I feel like Pitt is, if they're good, they're always in that 15 to 25 range. If Virginia Tech's good, it's always in 15 to 25. If Georgia Tech over the last 10 years, if they're having good seasons, they're a top 25 team. None of those teams are in the top 12 for me, so it doesn't really strike me as. And then maybe they need that one additional player to put them over the edge, but.
I didn't even have SMU in my Cam Newton tier. I had them in never.
Never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen.
You don't think there's 5 years from now there's a situation where SMU has some of the nicest facilities in the country?
Maybe, but maybe.
Actually, this isn't gonna happen because I just remembered they deferred all their conference money. Do y'all remember this? They got into the ACC on promise that they weren't gonna take any TV revenue split. So they're not getting paid to be in the conference. They're being here for free.
Yeah. Never gonna happen.
So, but they did this knowing that they have Dallas-Fort Worth money.
Yeah.
So there is, I think there's not, we know this now. With unregulated NIL, they're in the state of Texas. They can pretty much do whatever they want. If they banded together $13 million worth of endowment for one singular recruiting class or one singular transfer class, like, I don't think it's out of the ordinary. We're talking about oil money, boys. We're talking about a different level of shit right here. Okay?
I guess.
Let's be honest. Now that they are a Power 5 member school, hear me out. 5 years from now, what stops SMU from being Texas A&M?
Tradition, passion, and you need a
historical context that has now been drastically changed due to NIL and conference.
But you also need a generational talent to jumpstart that, like a Johnny Manziel. Like if you take away Johnny football, Texas A&M is not where it is today.
So they're a Cam Newton away. They're a tier 3 away from something.
Yeah,
like
but they would have to pay a Cam Newton guy astronomical money, whereas like Johnny Manziel made astronomical amounts of money after the fact.
And I'm telling you, I think that's possible at SMU.
I just feel like that now.
Have you seen that campus?
I don't think it's.
Do you know how much money it costs to go there?
Yeah, it's a shit ton.
It's a shit ton.
I don't think it's impossible. My problem is like
Methodist got it like that, huh?
If you can convince me that SMU can get a Cam Newton like player, and this was the argument I had a while ago. What's stopping any college football program from doing the same thing?
Vandy's not located in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah,
that's the difference to me. So that could be the hang up, but I don't think the rest of these are. Where are you at on Georgia Tech?
They're at Cam Newton tier 3.
Okay. I would put those two in 5 years from now. Those two schools are going to be on level playing.
Tier 3 could sneak into tier 2 if they continue to improve.
Syracuse, where'd y'all put them?
Cam Newton.
Okay. Both Virginia schools, where'd y'all put them?
I had only Virginia Tech Cam Newton tier.
You know, I thought about making Virginia a tier 4 team just because of the academic structures there.
They are
it's
a tier 4
too damn
team.
hard to get in.
They're a tier 4 team to me.
All right. So tier 4, I have Stanford, Cal. We just moved Virginia in there, and I have Wake in there as well.
In the never?
In the never.
The hang up I have on Stanford is they were at one point in time a top 5 program in the country. I mean, like with Andrew Luck, Christian McCaffrey, Bryce Petty, but again, that was 15 years ago.
Those years of Stanford football I would give them we call them the Luck years and the McCaffrey years. Those were separated by about 5 seasons and 2 different coaches.
Yeah.
So there is a track record here. David Shaw's alluded to this. He left that job for a reason. The idea that Stanford brass is going to be out here paying for college football athletes is beyond their measure. They just don't think about it. It's just not ever going to happen, despite the fact that that is a program that has astronomical amount of money.
Yeah,
they have ridiculous amount of money out there, but they will never, ever, ever spend it on athletes. I don't think.
Plus, and I would say this too: if you're good enough to go play at Stanford and you're smart enough to go play at Stanford, why not just go play at Duke and be closer to all the teams that you're going to be playing anyways, and probably be a better football program?
Are we good on our tier talks?
I'm good on it.
All right, let's move on to our next segment. We're gonna give them 3. We got the 3 biggest transfers or the most impactful transfers, however you want to quantify it. I don't care. Just give me some takes here with the upcoming season. What has been the most impactful or the best transfer player, however you want to rank it, 1 through 3. We'll start with you.
I mean, I think the number one answer is kind of obvious. Caleb Downs.
Yeah.
I went elsewhere.
I mean, I'll make the case then. You took one team, one major powerhouse's best player at like by far, and put him on a different powerhouse team that is primed in position to compete for a national title. I think the effect of Caleb Downs transferring to Ohio State will have more effect than any other program in college football.
Can I make the case for Dante Moore?
Sure.
I almost did.
I don't hate Dante Moore.
The idea, and we've talked about it almost ad nauseum, it seems like this offseason, but and we talked about it with Dan, the idea that he got Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore. So basically his first 5 years of coaching college football are going to be 2 years of Bo Nix and the best years of Bo Nix, a year of Dylan Gabriel, and then 2 years, maybe 3 of Dante Moore. That's not a bad daggum run right there for you as a head football coach.
At all.
That you know is going to recruit well on the lines of scrimmage, and you know is going to coach the hell out of the defensive side of the football. That was a massive addition and a major, kind of monumental swing in college football in terms of the future landscape of how that feels. And by the way, I think Dante's game is far more suited for the Big Ten than it is for the Pac-12.
So we kind of asked this question on the local hour last night of Georgia, where is the model of consistently living off transfer sustainable at the wide receiver position? And we all kind of agreed no. Is it different at the quarterback position? Can you go in each year and say, okay, we'll take this guy for 2 years, and then another 2 years later we'll go get another guy? Is that a sustainable model?
If that player's supremely talented, if not, you're Kentucky or you're NC State. Or right now you're Notre Dame.
Yep.
Right? Like Sam was not uniquely talented. Sam was a good college football player. I think Riley Leonard is supremely talented. But is he going to put together a supremely talented season? I don't know. But yeah, you can build your model off of we're going to bring in dudes at the quarterback position as long as they're dudes.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like most of the success stories you see in college football today are transfer portal guys. Like how many of the last?
I just don't know if we hear about the flameouts though.
You don't. I mean, well, you do, but for every flameout, it seems like there's as many success stories. I mean, for God's sakes, the last 3 Heisman winning quarterbacks have been.
It's like 5 out of 6.
Yeah, I think Bryce Young is the only one who wasn't a transfer. So
yeah,
Devontae Smith, but that's not a quarterback. You're right.
Yeah. Are we just going through his whole list, or are we just kind of round robin?
Let's go. The other two? I mean, I had Caleb Downs number 2.
I didn't put him on my list because I thought it was too much of a gimme.
Yeah, I had him number 2. I kind of took chalk except for the last one.
So you want me to go again?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I think Jamon Dumas-Johnson's addition to Kentucky. I mean, you have a guy that was a finalist for the Butkus Award, or a semifinalist, one of the two. The fact that he's on that defense now is going to be huge, especially for a team that, I mean, who knows what could happen if you find yourself in the top 15 come week 11 of the college football season. I think his leadership, his experience in big games is going to be huge for Kentucky's defense moving forward.
Got to keep the weight off.
Yeah.
I think Kentucky fans will learn. They won't learn quickly. It'll take all season. JDJ's a pack-on guy, as we call him around here, Pop. He'll start the season about 230, and then you'll look up about midway through November, and he might be pushing 240. So you got to be able to keep the weight off of him. And that's been the MO with him, even coming out of high school. Like he came to Georgia really heavy. I think he enrolled at Georgia north of 245.
Hell yeah.
And had to cut a tremendous amount of weight before he got onto the field. And even during his time at Georgia, I think Georgia fans will tell you there were some limitations from a top-end speed standpoint and a general athleticism standpoint, despite the fact that I'm with you. I think he's a preseason All-SEC caliber football player that left Georgia because they think C.J. Allen's like that. So I'm with you. That's a massive addition. I went Caleb Downs 2. Who'd you go to?
I haven't said my number 1 yet.
Oh,
but I didn't rank these like that.
Okay.
But the first name on my list was DJU to FSU because it at the very least it helps bridge you the gap. Because I mean, you are not getting DJU away from starting Luke Kromenhoek as your starting quarterback this year, a true freshman from the 2024 class. So at the very least, you got an experienced college football quarterback, a guy that's played in multiple conferences, had a lot of games under his belt, and he can go in there, help you bridge, like I said, bridge the gap for you and buy you a season of a development for a guy like Kromenhoek, or buy you another season until you can stack up some more talent. So I think that was impactful for a program trajectory.
A little stopgap.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a little stopgap. My question I guess he needed to get rid of Jordan Travis before Florida State became an option, but And he obviously had to leave Oregon State because they weren't a Power 5 football program anymore.
Lost head coach, everything.
Kind of a nightmare. But he ended up taking the backup from Oregon State.
Childs?
Yeah, no. Yeah, maybe.
Some Childs, I think, yeah.
That kid's at Michigan State with the former head coach.
Uh-huh.
So, and that kid took split reps with DJU towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I was bullish on DJU off of one game, and that was the Notre Dame tape. And then after that, it was just all downhill.
Mm-hmm.
It never got better. It's progressively gotten worse. How about what Texas did at the wide receiver room as a whole? They got 3 total transfers, Isaiah Bond, and they took Silas from Oregon State, who I like a lot. And Bond and Silas kind of both projected slot receivers, but they took another kid from Houston that's huge. That might play outside for him. But what Texas did this offseason at the wide receiver position, and took Nye Black from Alabama as well, they restocked and reloaded at the weapons position.
Isaiah Bond made the list for me for that very reason.
Yeah, I went kind of like similar to you in a different team, where the amalgamation of just who you got in that room, or not in the room, but necessarily from the portal. I chose Walter Nolan.
Yeah.
Just because I think what
could be a difference maker.
Yeah, what he did for Ole Miss, and the fact that what they've done in the portal just in the offseason in general, I think is going to be huge for that team. And I mean, it's really put them in a good position to be a playoff team this year.
My concern for Walter is that it's been 2 years already, and it hasn't popped. Coming out of high school, I gave him the comp of Derek Brown. At the Under Armour event here in Atlanta in February of 2022, I believe it would have been, maybe 2021, Walter Nolan shows up at like 345 pounds, looks overweight, to be honest with you. When he walked up to the field, I was like, oh, he looks kind of chubby today. I hand timed him at like 488. Yeah. I was just like, I watched him, the guys do the jump where they jump up and they pull their knees to their chest. I saw him do that, and I pulled out my phone immediately. I was like, this sumbitch fitting a roll. And that's exactly what he did. 488, and again, north of 335 pounds. He looked like he's about 345. Yeesh. And it was smooth, baby. And, yeah, it was Derek Brown for me coming out, and it hasn't been that. But everything about the profile says it could very much so be that. Mm-hmm. And if he's that for Ole Miss this year, they are a top 5 football program.
Yeah, I mean, I put him on there because I was like, Lane Kiffin got something on the transfer portal trail that he could never get on the recruiting trail coming out of high school, and that's a high-caliber 5-star defensive player. And you know what? Maybe I don't want to compare it because they're not going to be similar scenarios, but they are in a sense. Maybe is like Jermaine Johnson leaving a Georgia and going to a Florida State. And it's like, just go be a dude for us. Go rack up stacks. Go put up stupid numbers and just be a guy on defense. Maybe that's what Ole Miss kind of does with Walter Nolan. It's like, just go be a dude for us. Just go make plays. That's all. We don't really want to confine you into this one small space. Just go do it and be great.
Yeah, 4 sacks this year. Bro, this is how I know ESPN done fell off. How does ESPN not have TFLs listed as a stat category for a defensive lineman? What on earth are you doing, children? He had 8.5 tackles for loss. So he had a relatively decent season this year at Texas A&M, but it wasn't what we think it should be.
No.
You know what I mean? This should be a 12.5 TFL guy, 7 sack guy is what this should be. This should be a constant presence, constant issue, constantly we have to game plan around this guy. And again, if he becomes that for Ole Miss this year, they are something special. Do we have any more?
No, I'm good.
Hey,
got all my 3.
Give them 3. All right, last segment of our national hour, we're going to rank these quarterbacks that are available in the upcoming NFL draft. I think there's a consensus top 3, and however you rank these 3 is dependent upon your feelings about the quarterback position. I have a hard time over-evaluating Caleb Williams. I know what it was this year. I understand that it was 8-5. I understand that there were some turnover concerns. The Notre Dame tape is atrocious. There are moments in that Notre Dame game where you're like, buddy, if you don't start learning how to protect the football, you won't survive in the NFL. But there are moments, as there are with, that Patrick Mahomes guy, where you're like, oh, my God, this is God's gift to the quarterback position. This guy can do things with the football that not very many people on this planet can. Mm-hmm. And the difference with Caleb that I don't think a lot of people talk about, and they won't talk about because he won't run at all, I legitimately think this is like a 4.55 guy. Like, I think this is a really, really quick, football player. He is very explosive in nature. His lower body is ridiculous. Like his hips down strength and just his ability to, like, when people are on him, continue to make throws and continue to shed tackles and do all this. His lower body strength is phenomenal, and his core strength is phenomenal. And his ability to twist and contort his spine is part of the reason, and I would say the primary reason why he's able to make the throws that he's able to make. I would not pass up on this kid for somebody else because somebody else feels safer. That's not how you do this. This is a ceiling, height, weight, speed, draft and league. All right. The best, biggest, fastest, strongest normally prevail on Sundays. I would not pass up on that guy. I have Drake May number 2 because though I do love Jaden Daniels, who is my number 3 quarterback in this NFL draft, I am not of the belief that Jaden Daniels is one of these guys that avoids big hits. No. I'm hearing a lot of this in the NFL draft, and we heard a lot of this about Bryce Young coming out too. Oh, it's okay that he's thin. Oh, it's okay that he's small. He avoids hits. He doesn't get hit hard. People don't hit him clean. Bro, Jaden Daniels gets hit like shattered glass.
Bro, he looks like a Looney Tunes character when he gets hit.
It's nuts. And I've heard over and over again during this process, people say, ooh, he's got a knack for avoiding the big one. No, he does not. No, he does not at all. And if you've ever seen him in person, he is 6'4". He is tall, but he is not physically imposing. There's not a lot of mass on this structure. This is not Josh Allen. This is damn sure not Cam Newton. This is not even Anthony Richardson. And look what happened to Anthony Richardson when he got to the league. Another football player that was unaware or incapable of being able to get down on the ground without getting lit up. And boom, 6'6", 250 pounds, hurt, out, rookie year. Like, got mic'd up versions of Trevor Lawrence telling him, hey, son, you need to learn how to get on the ground, right? So I think Jaden Daniels fits in this category of elite athlete. Dude gets hit like shattered glass in the open field, and that worries me. So for that reason, I put Drake May number 2 because of all of these guys, I feel like Drake's just going to be good. He's going to be good. And knowing when I draft a guy that this guy is going to be good and he's going to be my NFL starter for a decade, and let's say he's anywhere from Andy Dalton to Josh Allen, we're taking that. Like, that feels great. We feel very, very confident about that selection, whereas Jaden feels a little bit more hesitant in terms of guarantees. Now, I have a sizable gap, like enough to where I probably wouldn't draft another quarterback in the second round. I would just draft a nice, solid position player, and then I would draft one of these quarterbacks in the third round, which, by the way, is the history of the NFL draft. Normally, quarterbacks don't get drafted in the second round. I think Jalen Hurts was the first one in recent memory to do it, and then I think they took another one in the last couple of drafts in that second round, but normally it doesn't happen. So I have Penix number 4, and then I have J.J. McCarthy behind him, and then I have another not as sizable gap, but I have another gap, and I have Spencer Rattler and then Bo Nix. And if I were to circle a guy and say, hey, if this dude gets a chance in the league, he will drastically outperform his draft selection, it would be Spencer Rattler. I think Spencer Rattler is an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I think Spencer Rattler has the potential to be the biggest steal of this draft, where you could get a 4th or 5th round guy and he's your franchise quarterback. I think
and by the way, can do it on a shitty team.
Yeah.
We found that out this year in the SEC.
Oh, yeah.
There were games where he was running for his life and somehow managed to complete 90% of passes. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
He got sacked 7 times against North Carolina. I think he went like 28 for 31.
I mean, shoot, in a freaking rainstorm against Georgia, he had a phenomenal first half, and even had a
17
phenomenal
for 21 in the first half against Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, so he can do it against the good teams in all conditions. Like, that dude can play ball flat out.
Yeah, but I personally think there's a bigger gap between 1, 2, and 3. Like, there's 1, 2, and then a bigger gap than Jaden Daniels. I just don't know how Jaden Daniels – I don't see an NFL quarterback when I watch him play. I see an extremely talented guy that can throw the ball well, but
I saw it against Mississippi State. He threw a couple balls against Mississippi State. I'm like, oh shit, Sunday throw. Now I know he's throwing to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Another thing that I don't think often gets brought up in this discussion is like, damn, bro, he's been throwing to some guys for 2 straight years, man. Like, that's a benefit to him as well. But I see an NFL thrower. I don't see an NFL sustainable play style. That's what concerns me.
Yeah, I mean, throwing, absolutely, it's there. I just don't know if quarterback play, as far as reading and being able to make the right decision, that's where I don't see it translating.
And to that notion, Brian Kelly mentioned that this offseason is like, hey, we need this guy to be more confident in the system, and when he sees something, to trust that it's going to develop and trust that it's going to open. And I would also tell you this. There was a lack of progression in his development in terms of 1, 2, 3 read, check down, whatever. Because for him, it was there's the primary read, there's the secondary read. Oh shit, they're in man coverage. I'm taking off.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the legs hampered his development from, or at least our ability to see his development from a processing standpoint. So I think there's some merit in that opinion.
Mm-hmm. Other than that, I think it's a solid. I think that's honestly how I would have probably put my list out. I think that's essentially
This Bo Nix first round stuff makes me sick. It makes my tummy turn.
I don't.
Same
like
thing
it.
with the JJ McCarthy stuff.
Yeah,
And
top
I
15
do,
pick.
You kind of pushed back on me earlier before the show about, hey, like you have McCarthy 5th. Like that's higher than I thought you would have had him. And I remember covering JJ in high school and watching him at the Elite 11. And he's a traitsy dude. He's traitsy as shit. The fear for me on JJ is that, like, yeah, we have the start sample size, but we don't have the rep count sample size. Like you don't have the amount of throws and the repertoire of throws for me to know that you can do everything we're going to task you to do on the next level.
Yeah, and I guess it also surprised me just because recently it feels like we've been in an age of the NFL draft where you see 5 or 6 quarterbacks taken off the board each first round, it feels like. And I feel like this is not that draft class. So when you have McCarthy at the 5 spot, it doesn't necessarily mean he's a first-round pick, but in the past it's kind of alluded to that. So I think that's where the surprise kind of came from.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, we got a whole nother hour of content coming up for you, and it's going to be a great one. We're going to take it to the board and talk some football. Make sure you join us here in about 45 seconds.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? Really like that. You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to our local hour. It is time to talk that dog. We got a tremendous loaded hour. We got a tremendous local hour for you guys today. We're going to be going through Georgia's roster and ranking our top 5 football players. We're going to be going through player comps, NFL draft style. All right. Should Georgia be optimistic about their chances with this in-state 5-star? We'll talk about that tonight. We have a prospect of the day. And your boy went out to the Under Armour event Saturday, and your boy also filmed one-on-ones. And I thought it would be fun to get up on the board today and treat our film study for the offensive line, defensive line film like I would a room. Okay, I'm going to stand up and coach the offensive line, what they did right, what they did wrong, how they can improve, all that good stuff. And we could call it a B-roll. We could call it an application. I'm definitely going to put it on whatever resume I got the next time I fake apply for an Iowa OC job. We're definitely going to roll this clip and have it for those guys so they can just feel what it feels like when old Brooksy's running a room. But welcome into our local hour. We're going to start here with our top 5 dogs. But I want to ask you guys right now, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. It's a loaded group in the chat today. I know one of that other guy's programs just probably ended, so we'll probably have some trickling in coming from there. So make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review. Boys, welcome into the local hour. Who are your top 5 dogs and who wants to start?
Are we just listing our 5? Or
I think we should list the 5 and then argue.
Okay, I can go first.
Or should we do whether or not this is consensus? All right, so let's do this. I think number 1's consensus.
I don't know that it is.
All right, so let's start. Go ahead.
I don't know.
You're up.
Go ahead, Joe.
Because it wasn't just, for me, it wasn't just
You're
start.
up. Let's
okay.
go.
All right, I went Carson Beck, number 1.
Okay.
Yep.
I did not.
Okay, see? Exactly.
Go ahead.
Malachi Starks, number 2.
Fair.
Michael Williams, number 3.
Okay.
Smile Monday, number 4.
Uh-huh.
Tate Ratledge, number 5.
Okay, you and me have 4 and 5 flipped, and everything else is the same.
All right, so I have an outside looking in. I got all kinds of stuff. Outside looking in, I have Tyron Ingram Dawkins, who I think is a drastically underrated football player.
These are like your honorable mentions?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're outside the top 5. They're looking in.
Gotcha.
I like that pick.
These are first out. Trevor Etienne, I think is a top 10 football player on this roster this year. I have Tate Ratledge on the outside looking in. How about Warren Brinson? How about Warren Brinson being on the edge here? I think Warren Brinson going to have a big year.
He could finish the year, like 12 months from now.
Dude,
he could be a top 5 player on the team.
I think he was like second on the team in sacks this last year.
He could have doubled it.
Okay, yeah, and turned down like 7 TFLs last year. All right, so here's my actual top 5. Starting 5, going to 1. We got to build some suspense.
Let's hear it. I like this.
Number 5, C.J. Allen.
Mm-hmm.
C.J. Allen, top 5 football player on this team.
That's interesting.
He would have been on the outside looking in for me.
I wanted to put C.J. Allen in, but Smaman's experience and the fact that he's been doing it for close to 3 years now, maybe put him in over him.
I got Smaman number 4.
Okay, well, that makes sense then.
Yeah. Smaman number 4, and just a shock to me that he's back for a 4th year.
Very surprising.
I mean, it's
even
stunning.
NFL draft mocks are shocked because some people, I think, didn't know
Still
that he was
haven't,
returning.
yeah. I mean, a tremendous keep for the Dogs, and a much needed one.
For sure.
Number 3, I have Mykel Williams. Number 2, I have Carson Beck. Number 1, I have Malachi Starks. Now, can you guess who I think is the most important player going into 2024?
It's got to be Carson Beck.
It is not.
Really? Most important.
We've talked about this. If this player isn't good, you're in deep shit.
It's Jonell Aguero.
Jonell Aguero.
Yeah.
If Jonell Aguero is not what Jonell Aguero was promised to be coming out of high school, row rags. You know what I mean? Row raggy. What's going to happen at star?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's your most pivotal position defensively, I believe. It's Mike and it's star and nose tackle. If you got a great one of those, it changes how you play. We saw that with Jordan Davis. But, man, if you don't have a great Mike and if you don't have a great star in this 4-2-5 nickel, you're in not hot water, but it's looking like where Mark Webb's an NFL football player, but you guys hated Mark Webb. Y'all felt like Mark Webb got picked on because guess what? If that guy's not good, they attack that. So you got to be good there.
So my only question would be, what do you look at as like the 2021 defense? Whereas like I think it's the gold standard. Their star position was kind of a question mark through the whole season. Like Dan Jackson got some reps there. Latavius Brini got reps. Like the star player that year never really.
That was Otis, not Otis Reese. That was
William Poole.
Yeah, William Poole.
That was William Poole year. That
Yeah.
was just trying to patchwork the position.
They flip-flopped a lot.
So could you not have that kind of year this year?
You could, and I thought at times there were exposures on Georgia, most notably the SEC championship game.
Oh yeah,
at that spot, right? Jamison Williams in the slot was like 180 before he blew the knee out. There's some comments here about Jake Pope. That's a tough ask. I know he's a smart kid. I would imagine he's a smart kid coming from Buford. He's football smart, I should say. I don't know his career GPA. Football smart, you would imagine, coming from a program like that. But to ask that kid to completely absorb the star position in 8 months when you know he played safety at Alabama, that's a tough ask.
yeah.
Yeah, if those two didn't pan out, then it seems like your last cry for help. Ja'Cory Thomas, yeah.
Cross-trained David Daniel, which I would imagine is what they're doing now.
Gotta be. I mean,
you have to be cross-training Dan Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a Justin Rhett cross-training there as well.
You got to do a lot of it.
Yeah, they got thin real quick back there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think what would have solved all these issues is maybe you take some of your high school funding and you pay Bullard to come back, and then he plays star again, and then you're okay. Everything's solved. But that wasn't the case, right? So it is what it is.
So you actually think that? Well, no, you said Malachi Starks was number one. Why do you have Malachi over Carson Beck?
I just think he's a better football player.
Okay, so you did it based on like talent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I threw in the most important discussion because I mean, obviously the quarterback's important.
Yeah.
But I think Malachi Starks is the best player at Georgia.
Yeah, I think Carson Beck's value to the team as a whole puts him in the number one spot. But I do agree, Malachi Starks is the much better football player.
And that's why I said I didn't think it's exactly just clear cut of who's number one, because I initially put Malachi and then I was like, I'm actually going to put Carson Beck, because if Carson Beck does ball out like we think he will this year, I mean, that's a first overall pick potentially next year.
I think there's a chance that Malachi might be like the best defensive player we've watched. I think there's a chance he goes to the NFL and is just like a multi-time All-Pro. He is to the safety position at Georgia what Roquan is to the linebacker position.
Ooh, I like that comment.
He could be. You know what I mean? That opportunity is on the table, more so than anybody else in the room. Like KJ's got a tremendous ceiling. I don't foresee KJ turning into 100% of Malachi. But if he's 95% of Malachi, he's still a top 15 pick, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
But, yeah, I think Malachi Starks is the best player at Georgia, followed closely by Carson, followed closely by Mike Hill, and then there's a slight drop-off for the rest of the guys.
Yeah, I put Tate Ratledge on my list. Honestly, just for this pure reason of I think that's kind of going to be I shouldn't say face of the program, but I think that he's clearly stepping into this leadership role. I mean, he said that he had to step in front of the team and speak to him about importance of showing up early and all this stuff on his podcast. And then was late the next day. But I feel like he's stepping into like this leadership role, a face of like that offensive line, a face of the offense, and a guy that a lot of the players are going to have to lean on and look towards. And so that's one of the reasons why I put him as one of the top 5 players. And obviously, he's immensely talented at his position.
Chad makes a good point. Can you believe we're already reaching the last season of Malachi Starks?
No, I still think that he made the interception against Oregon yesterday.
Yeah, we're here.
Dude, I'm getting old.
You blink.
You get 15 more. You get 13 guaranteed, but you might get 16. That's crazy.
And that's gone.
Asking college football kids to play 16 games. It's nuts. But anyways, our prospect of the day just got offered by Texas. So, shout out. Oh, excuse me, Texas A&M.
Still, shout out.
Still,
get the money.
No offer from Georgia. We're gonna try to figure out why. We're going to try to figure out why today during our local hour here.
So is this going to be the theme now? Like we're picking guys to try and figure out why maybe?
I don't know. I watched this today, and particularly this room. We're watching another inside linebacker today, but I think it's fun to study how great players are that don't even have an offer. You know what I mean? Like this guy is great. Watch this. Not good enough. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's basically what we're doing.
It is honestly crazy too, and we won't ever do this, but to like see some guys where it's like, you have an offer?
Yeah.
After watching tape, like,
yeah.
So.
There's a 5-star in 2025 that I watched today. Now, I can't give too much away, but I was like, I text somebody, I was like, I'm not as high as you are, being a source at Georgia. I'm not as high as you are on that kid, and I'm definitely not as high as the rest of the industry. Right. And I get nervous when I feel like that, but over time, I'm usually right. But yeah, stiffness is a fear for me, particularly with defensive linemen. If you are playing that position, that is a dancing bear position. That is a position where you got to have ultimate flexibility and athletic abilities. So, yeah. Welcome into our local hour. We got a great one for you. We're going to talk about our NFL comps. We're going to get into whether or not Georgia should be optimistic about a 5-star. We're going to talk about our prospect of the day, and I'm doing Coach Brooks. But I want to give a quick shout-out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Make sure you're going over to prizepicks.com. Use the promo code Brooks. You get a 100% deposit match. I want to do these NFL comps first. I think it's going to be a good segment. We worked on these hard before the show, and I think these are good NFL comps. So this is how it's going to work. We went through the 11 players that are available for the NFL draft this year, and we selected comps for them. Something funny.
You stopped yourself on that one.
Yeah, after I already did it.
And I didn't even say anything.
So, yeah, here we go. We got NFL comps. I'm going to start with 2 that I think are dynamite. Okay, I'm going to give them to you back to back.
All right.
I think Tyke Smith and Mike Hilton are a Spider-Man meme. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Mike Hilton was a defensive back, a nickel that came out of Sandy Creek High School, played at Ole Miss. I think was a lower-rounded draft pick. Has made his career arc and made a name for himself on the Pittsburgh Steelers for about 4 years, and has now gone over to the Cincinnati Bengals. He's played about 7 years in the league as a 5'9", 190-pound nickel that is violent. And that, in my opinion, is what Tyke Smith is. If Tyke Smith's going to sustain himself in the league, he's going to have to play way bigger than he physically is at specifically the nickel position. I don't think anybody's going to offer him the ability to play safety. So, yeah, I think that's what the comp for me is, and I think that's what he's going to be. Like, Mike Hilton's going to play in the league for 10 years, being a dominant nickel defender in terms of, hey, he can play man, he can play zone, and, by the way, violent run defender despite the size.
I like that one.
That's a good comp.
I'm going to stay in that safety star hybrid type position, and I'm going to take a stab at comping Javon Bullard. I've talked about this guy and my history with him, having played against him, but I think Bullard's game is very akin to a player like Kenny Moore, where Kenny Moore coming out of high school or coming out of Valdosta State was a guy who played a little safety, played a little corner, played a little nickel, but was just a ball player. You know, he was just good across the board, and I think that's exactly what Bull is. He's going to connote a third-round draft pick despite the fact that he does not have third-round draft pick measurables from a highway speed standpoint. He might even go higher than that. I've seen top 50 evals in some boards on
Yeah.
Bull. So I like that. Kenny Moore just became, I think 2 years ago, the highest paid nickel corner in the league. So that's a solid comp for Bull, in my opinion.
I like the Bullard comp, but I think mine's a little better.
Okay, give it to me.
I do like his.
I have Javon Bullard is DeMonte Casey.
Ooh.
5'11", 184, ran a 4.5, likes hitting people a lot, not afraid to just throw his body at you, might get you a couple flags, but I think Javon Bullard and Monte Casey are very similar play styles. Kind of have that dog attitude in them.
That's a safety for the Falcons, right?
He's
was
at
on
the
the
Dallas
Steelers
Cowboys, and now he's with the Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just a thudder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Straight
prototypical Dan Quinn,
Okay.
cornerback, defensive back guy.
Cover 3.
Yeah.
Deep safety, likes to strike, or is he the box safety?
He's a deep safety most of the time.
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple. If you look up DeMonte Casey on YouTube, there's a couple plays where he is just getting what would be a target. Like, he definitely got fined for these hits type plays.
Love
Yeah,
it.
I would say that Bullard's a smarter football player because we never saw that from Bullard at Georgia. He always played pretty clean. But as far as that dude's just a pure football player, I think it's a really good comp. I'll stay with the defensive backs with you guys, but I'm going with Kamari Lassiter. Took me a minute to find this one, but I think I finally found one that's a dang near perfect match, I should say, between like both of these guys are about 6 foot. Both of these guys are about 185 to 190 pounds. And that's Kamari Lassiter and Marshawn Lattimore.
Ooh.
Now, I think that Marshawn Lattimore, I think he's kind of fallen off a little bit, and maybe not what he once was at the cornerback position, but that's kind of how this position feels like in the NFL of you string together maybe 3 great seasons, and then maybe you kind of burn out a little bit. But I think that both of them are just physical cornerbacks, very technique-based, and I think that's a good comp for Kamari Lassiter. And plus, he was drafted in the first round, about mid-first round.
How tall is Kamari Lassiter? 6.
He's listed 6 foot.
Yeah, 6 foot flat.
And he's light for 190 or something.
He's 185 listed.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, okay.
Don't hate it. You got one? Or you want me to go next?
I want you to go next because
All right, I got one for Cedric. And I didn't think long and hard about this one, but I remember studying this guy coming out of Michigan. Cedric reminds me a little bit of Cesar Ruiz, the center for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Not, coming out of Michigan at that point, like you're snapping the ball and we're like playing ISO ball, like you're downhill all the time, not doing a bunch of counter stuff like they are now, not doing a bunch of pin and pull stuff, no misdirection when Caesar was playing there. Pretty downhill type of football, which is basically what Cedric's been doing to an extent at Georgia. Not big, not massive. Caesar's 6'2", 305 at the NFL Combine. I think Ced's going to come in just under 6'4", okay, about 305. I think the thing that's going to shock people is the arm length on Cedric. We've been talking about that a little while here. But I think overall it'll be okay. And the number one thing that stuck out to me about Caesar and the number one thing that sticks out to me about Cedric is just how clean they play.
Yeah.
They don't get put in bad body positions at all. They're not heavily penalized, football
Very
players,
disciplined.
and their technicians. So I like that comp for Cedric. And by the way, that dude's going to be a 12-year vet.
Mm-hmm.
So Caesar's going to play for a long time, as is said. Got any more?
Yeah,
I got
two,
3 more.
I got 2 more.
I got 2 more as well.
You want to go
me.
to
Well, since I got 3, let me give you one.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Deion Edwards, Frank Gore.
Ooh, Frank Gore.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
And I stole this one. This ain't nothing that if you now. Here's how I know a lot of people don't watch player interviews. The Deion Edwards to Frank Gore comp is like what the running back room gave him. Running back room calls him Lil Frank. Up there at Georgia.
Oh, didn't know that.
That's kind of crazy.
Frank.
It's kind of crazy considering there is a Lil Frank playing
There is a
football.
Lil Frank Gore Jr. and he's a dog out of Southern Miss.
Yes, he is.
But he don't run like his daddy. This one does. Deion to me is a -2 to a +6. And guess what? In terms of like, oh shit, there's someone in the backfield, I'm going to turn it into a positive carry. Frank Gore did that for 20 years and is going to be a Hall of Famer because of that. I think if you look up Frank Gore's career averages in terms of yards per rush, I don't think he was ever over like 5. His career like 4.2 yards per carry guy. He just had a gajillion carries.
So a guy that after you look up the game, you're like, whoa, Deion Edwards, Frank Gore had 95 yards today?
Yeah.
What? Like, that's wild.
A solid 18 carries for 95 yards?
Yeah.
And what you got?
Mine?
Oh, no, I thought you were looking up the Frank
the
Gore
stats.
stats.
No, I was just
I'll
going to look
look
up how
it up.
long
Go
he was
ahead and
in.
give me another comp.
Yeah, so mine, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a Lad McConkey comp that.
Oh, no, I got one. Go ahead. I
I'll-
like
I'll-
yours. I don't know.
What's yours?
Ooh, I got 2.
You have 2 Ladd McConkey
I got
comps?
2 Ladd McConkey
Shit.
comps.
All right, what are they?
The first one, this guy's a little heavy for him, but he plays a very similar, like, physical, angry style.
Shit.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay. Ooh, I like that comp.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is about 6 foot. Ladd measured in a lot taller than I thought at the Senior Bowl. 5'11 and a half, damn near 6 foot. 187 pounds. Amon-Ra is about close to 200 now in the league. So he's gotten a little bigger and also has a different pedigree. You know, dad played in the league, older brother played in the league.
Yep.
I think older brother played in college. So a real different pedigree. Dad was a bodybuilder coming out. But in terms of play style, route running, yards after the catch, hard to bring down in open field, I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, the other comp that we've been hammering on this channel for a long time is Antonio Brown, who
I think that's the
physically
dead-on one.
is the same football player,
Yeah.
except for Ladd's faster.
All right,
That's
so
scary to think
that's
about.
By the way, I said 4.3 on Frank Gore. Career average 4.3 yards per attempt.
Look
And
at
he did
you.
that for 20 years, it felt like.
16.
Yeah. Which is 25 years in running back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was about
If
to
you
say.
play anything over 12 years as a
Bro.
running back in the NFL, you played 20 years.
8 years into the league, he had his career high for attempts, 276.
Jeez, just a workhorse.
Just a marathon. man.
276 totes.
He was a
get the hell out of
demon.
here with that.
He was a demon in Madden 25 too. Irrelevant, but all right. So I've been thinking about it, and I finally got a Ladd McConkey comp.
All right, what is it?
It is Danny Amendola.
Oh my god.
No,
You're
I'm
just trying to piss
I'm
me
just
off.
kidding. No,
Smack him
Golden
right now.
Tate,
Okay. I like it.
5'11", pushing
Burner.
190. Yeah, deep ball threat. He was a round 2 pick as well.
Golden
So I-
Tate was a little muscle hamstery.
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
out
it
of-
was.
coming
Golden
out of Notre
Tate's
Dame.
Golden Tate has
Real-
about
runs like Makai Muse.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Golden Tate does.
Yeah, Golden Tate ran a 4.4, like a low
Yeah,
4.4. So, I mean, I
legit.
think has about 10 pounds on Ladd McConkey, but I think that is probably one of the better comps because I always remember
Don't hate
him
it.
being kind of the not a huge guy, but always being a deep ball threat. So I think Golden Tate is going to be my Ladd McConkey comp from here on out.
All right, I have one more. Who else got one?
I got one
I
more.
still got 2 more.
All right,
Go
let's
ahead,
hear
J-Will.
yours.
Kendall Milton, but Falcons version Steven Jackson. Specifically Falcons
Okay,
version.
so we're not going to give him league leader in
yeah,
rushing,
not
Steven
not
Jackson.
St. Louis Steven Jackson,
Yeah.
but get another contract with the Atlanta Falcons, and you're still serviceable.
You're
Absolutely,
a one-cut guy, a bitch to tackle.
absolutely, yeah.
235 pounds.
Absolutely, still a threat out of the backfield. People respect you.
Kendall's currently growing his dreads out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Falcons version Steven Jackson. Big, I
Sounds
mean, just
terrible.
big guy. I mean, yeah, I like
But a equate version Derrick Henry.
it. Okay.
That feels,
How about Eddie Lacy before he had an eating problem?
I almost did the Eddie Lacy.
I was
thing.
going to do the Eddie Lacy thing, but the only Eddie Lacy I
He's
really remember.
faster than Eddie Lacy, even in Eddie Lacy.
Yeah, that was the thing. Eddie Lacy I remember in NFL was just like fat.
Yeah.
And almost like giving anyone an Eddie Lacy comp is now just like, oh, you
To
eat
the
a lot.
point where you were like, "That's definitely photoshopped, right?" And it's like,
Yeah.
"No,
Yeah, that was
he's
crazy.
just fat."
That was crazy.
I remember the years where Eddie Lacy, it got to a point where people were almost like arguing on behalf of his fatness, where it's like, you know, when the snow's on the ground, no one can really run fast anyways. So let's just get someone that's a rolling barrel.
When you have
Down the
frostbite,
road.
you don't want to touch them.
Yeah. So maybe it's a benefit.
He was a good Bama back too. That was a weird thing.
Yeah, he was. Good third stringer. And then had that 1 year where he got to be a starter. Did he wear 42 at Bama?
Yeah.
Just a
Or
hideous number for a
32.
quarterback or
It
running
was.
back.
It ended with a 2. It was
Yeah, I
42
think it
or
was
32.
42.
I
It
think
may
it
have
was
been-
42.
Yeah, I think he wore 32 at Green Bay.
He's 27 in Green Bay.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm just wrong.
God dang. Why does my brain do this for only football?
No, I feel the same way.
That's why you're sitting here.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, at least I turned it into something. You know what I mean? I had this conversation.
Yeah,
with
it's
my
not just a party
father-in-law one
trick.
time.
It's a career.
Yeah, exactly. I had this conversation with my father-in-law one time. We were out front in the old house trying to cut limbs off the tree, and he was like naming all the trees. Like, telling me the types of trees, and I'm like, man, you know a lot of stuff. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I know trees, but knowing trees doesn't pay my bills. But you know football, and you figured that out. So kudos to you. At least I know trees, though. I'm like, shout out to the trees.
Shout out to the trees.
Shout out to the trees. I got one more, but we all have one more. So let's go in the round,
Yeah.
and I'll finish.
I'll go.
last with
I'll
the
go ahead and
A-Wing.
do my last one because it's also Kendall Milton. I have Melvin Gordon. I think similar size, kind of similar 40 times. I think Melvin Gordon has been a solid NFL back.
Didn't Melvin go 4.47 at the combine?
His 40 time was a 4.52.
So 4.47 and then officially 4.52.
Yeah, probably about that. 6'1", 215. I think he's gonna have like 10 pounds on Kendall, maybe somewhere, give or take. But I think Melvin Gordon's a good comp for Kendall Milton as well as career. I mean, Melvin Gordon's made a very solid career in the NFL. He's been in the league for 7 years now.
Yeah, he's just continued to stick around. He's found himself a place every single year.
I could very well see Kendall Milton being that kind of guy.
Yeah, I don't hate that one. I'm going to need my true ball knowers to listen up to this one because you got to be a ball knower to understand this comp because you got to
certified ball knowers.
You got to
listen
dig.
up.
You got to dig a little deep and hear me out on this one if you do understand. Rojack James Jones, not James Jones that stuck around with the Miami Heat and won 5 rings because he sat on the bench.
Not the Hooper James Jones.
Not the Hooper James Jones.
Hoodie James Jones.
Hoodie James Jones, third option, second option for Aaron Rodgers.
Raiders James Jones.
No, I like Green Bay James Jones.
Green Bay James Jones, solid third option behind a Jordy Nelson
played
and Greg Jennings
because Jordy was playing X.
Tall, traitsy guy. I mean, like his career average is every single year is like he's putting up like 650, 750 yards every single year. Like just a really good, reliable third option that you can have.
I don't.
Jordy Nelson, good Lab McConkey comp.
Jordy Nelson was a monster.
Yeah, he was until he broke a rib.
Like physically a monster. I don't think people realize how big Jordy
Nelson
is.
Look
up Jordy Nelson. I'm gonna guess 6'3", 205.
Did you know what he would do in the offseason? He wouldn't work out. He would go and work on his farm.
Yeah.
I was just thinking he would just throw hay bales around all day. And I was like, all right, that's my workout.
I love that.
Also, another Raiders
6'3".
6'3", what do you weigh?
217.
Also,
God dang. Whoa, 217? Hell no. All that dude ran was backside posts at 217 pounds.
Yeah, man.
My God, Jordy Nelson.
Also another Raiders receiver.
That's going to be my London Humphreys comp. And that one will fit.
There it is.
You know?
I wouldn't laugh, but yeah, then I was like, kind of checks out, I guess.
All right, last one. Amarius Mims. Now, how do you comp someone who's 6'8", 330 pounds and will run near 5 seconds flat in the 40? I went with the only name and the only freak that I know of at this position, and it's Orlando Pace Sr. And this picture that I asked Jay Will to put on the screen for you guys really sold it home for me because I've seen photos like this of Amarius where he's on the field with other really large humans, and he looks like a large human and disproportionately large, like way bigger than anybody else on the field. And that, to me, is what, Amarius felt like. And it's not just a size thing, right? What made Orlando a first-round, maybe arguably the greatest tackle in the history of NFL football, what made him so great was his athleticism and how light on his feet he was and how athletically superior he was to his competition. Orlando Pace Sr. is my comp for Amarius Mims. Now, will he live up to that? I don't know. I don't worry, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I knew coming out of college – Andrew Thomas was going to be about his shit when he got to the league. I don't know, just like I didn't know with Broderick Jones. I didn't know for a fact if Broderick Jones got to the league if he's going to be about his shit. But I don't know that about Amarius, so we're going to have to find out.
Yeah, I think that's a good comp. Obviously, the size alone fits the mold.
And the size took him out of any comps for like Trent Williams for me. Trent Williams would have been, I think I've said this before, Trent Williams would have been a closer comp to a player like Broderick. Where Broderick was an immense athlete coming out, and you saw the movement patterns while he was playing the position. Whereas Amarius, you really got to go searching for it in terms of looking for the athletic movements out there on the field. And if you want to find them, just go watch the Ohio State game. It is. I say this, and I've said this before, and it is not hyperbole. Amarius Mims versus Ohio State is the best single game I've seen a college football tackle play. It was absurd what he was doing on that football
It's
field.
kind of funny that both him and Broderick kind of first got their first introduction in a college football playoff setting for one game and just balled out when you absolutely needed it.
That was one of the more physically impressive things I've ever seen. Broderick getting thrown into the fire against Will Anderson and just going out there basically playing offensive tackle like he played power forward in basketball. He was just like, I'm going to put my feet in front of you. None of this is going to make any sense. I'm not going to be technically sound, but God made me, and God made me immensely talented from an athletics perspective. And I'm just going to stay in front of you today. I'm literally going to block you with my feet, is what Broderick did for that whole entire second half of that national championship game, and held him sackless.
Yes, he did.
Impressive, for sure. Any more comps? We good?
That was it for me.
That's all I got.
All right, let's talk about this 5-star prospect, that being Julian Lewis. Now, here's my thought process here, and this isn't anything I've talked to Julian's camp about. This is just me putting tea leaves together and being honest about the situation. And the situation is USC is entering a season this year with a quarterback in Millard Moss who looked great in the bowl game, but is relatively unproven. And they still have a bunch of questions defensively, and they're going to play a tougher schedule this year than they did last year. There's not a lot of reasons to believe that USC is going to roll the ball out this year and be substantially better. Does anyone in this room believe that?
No.
Okay.
I don't firmly believe that. No.
So
it's
yeah,
possible,
they made some great additions on the defensive staffs. They made some concerted hires on that side of the football. But this looks like a program right now that doesn't have a bunch of stable building blocks around the quarterback position. And here's the deal. Julian Lewis does not play the game of football like Caleb Williams did. He can't play. He doesn't want to play hero ball. He doesn't want to run around and make up for the right tackle being terrible today, or make up for the right tackle and the left guard being terrible today. Julian Lewis wants to be an operator, a processor, a decision maker, and guess what? He's one of the best we've seen at the high school level doing those things, and he will continue to do that. Those are translatable skills onto the college level. I am of the belief that they are aware that Julian doesn't necessarily need to be protected, but he doesn't need to be going to situations where we're just like, hey, he's Caleb Williams, we'll be fine. That's not the case. This isn't one of these guys. This is a guy that needs to be surrounded, all right, like every other great quarterback does. Every other great quarterback needs to have great talent around them. But what I'm trying to boil it down to is I don't believe Julian Lewis will watch this year at USC, or I'm not of the belief that Julian Lewis will watch USC this year and feel comfortable about going and standing behind that offensive line. That being said, I am of the belief that with the turnover that happened at Alabama, maybe Texas has a chance here because Steve Sarkisian. But I think if Julian Lewis flips from USC, the only reasonable assumption is that he will go to Georgia. That is my opinion. Ohio State is not in the mix here, never really has been, right? Florida, nope. Maybe Florida State. There's some continued visits to Florida State from this camp over and over again. But in my opinion, if you track the visits in this history and in this recruitment, is he going to go to USC? Will they hold on? If not, hey, does Georgia have an opportunity to flip him? And right here today, I feel comfortable about that opportunity for that to happen. I wouldn't say optimistic. I feel comfortable about that happening. And here's the other thing. He was at the UA event this weekend, and this is something I've heard his camp talk about over and over again. Georgia has a lot of guys that he likes. Georgia has a lot of guys that he grew up with. He said in an interview yesterday or Sunday at the Under Armour event that KJ Bolden's dad, Kai Bolden, was his first football coach. All right, so KJ being at Georgia is a comfortable feeling for him. And that's not the only one. There's a variety of different guys that fit that mold. So I think Georgia feels today, or should feel today, that they're in a good spot with Julian Lewis.
So my question to you then I'm going to throw at you is, how far along do you get into this commitment of Julian Lewis before you have to just finally dive in on another option, say that we got to find a guy now. We can't just continue to hold out because we need a quarterback. Like, what's your limit of, by this point, we've got to get someone else if Julian hasn't already?
Midsummer.
Midsummer. Okay.
Midsummer. I think nowadays you're going to see quarterbacks, the dominoes is what they call them in the industry. The dominoes will begin to fall from now on in July. Once those official visits conclude and they have a good feeling about who they are, where they are, and what the programs look like, most of those dominoes begin to fall. And a prime example of this we talked about earlier in the show was Arch. Arch was the first domino to fall in that class, and it happened in July. And then you saw everybody else kind of bump in line right after that. And that's kind of how it works. And I believe Raiola was a July commitment, wasn't he? Wasn't he?
He was early spring. He was like May.
He's early spring. Okay, so again, the dominoes tend to fall relatively early here, so everybody can start to fall. And by the way, all these quarterback parents talk to one another, so they know the pecking order of basically how these decisions have to be made. You saw George McIntyre already make his.
Yeah, I guess my question is, say hypothetically Julian Lewis does commit to Georgia, does that hurt your quarterback room overall?
No. In fact, I think first of all, they need an early enrollee, period. Because the moment January hits this year, as if they don't get another quarterback in 2025, you have 2 scholarship players on your roster at the quarterback position. And by the way, if Ryan Puglisi for some reason wins that job going into the fall of 2025, there's no reason to believe Gunnar Stockton isn't in the portal. And if you don't sign a good quarterback in 2025, you're down to one scholarship guy very, very quickly, depending on how that quarterback battle goes down. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying you have to prepare for worst case scenarios if you're this room. And I know that it was a big contention point in the reclassification of Julian for Georgia, where they were kind of panicking, like, you're our number 1 quarterback on the board. You're reclassing to this class. You're still our number 1 quarterback on the board, but shit, son, we need you here in January, okay? And you're already pushing your classes a year early. How are we going to get you here in December? Oh, luckily, Carrollton found a way for this kid to be 18 months early. 18 months early. And I talked to Julian about this. It's refreshing to see a kid completely unaware of how unique he is and completely unaware of how talented he is and completely unaware of how different he is. Because I asked him Sunday, how many classes you taking right now to make this happen? And he starts rattling all this off. And me and Jeremy Johnson are standing there next to each other. And I said, Jeremy, he's the first 18-month advanced guy, right? And we started, he has to be. He has to be the first quarterback to not only graduate a full year early, but do so a year and a half early.
Crazy.
Jeez.
On top of all the other stuff that he does. You know what I mean? On top of all the work that he does, on top of all the visits that he takes, on top of all the 7-on-7 that he plays. Yeah, I see the super sub in there. We're going to talk about this super sub right here. Brooksy, if Juju is a little slow and Zeller says, I want to be a dog, do you take that commit and move on, or take it and still pursue Juju hard? I had a conversation about this with somebody in the building the other day. I think you have to recruit Juju balls to the wall until it comes to a conclusion because of the weight of that in-state prospect, right? You don't want another Deshaun Watson scenario. Yeah. No. You don't want another Trevor Lawrence scenario. Not saying that those things turned out bad for you, but you exhausted all things possible there and waited until the end of it, except for some of the stories you hear about Chaney and Lawrence and some of the stories you hear about Mark Richt and Deshaun Watson, whatever you believe. You have to exhaust your efforts with the in-state kid here. So that's a great question from 9Me Norm in the chat there. But I'm of the belief, even though I do love Zollers, the kid from Pennsylvania, I think he's elite. I think, as we said when we broke down the 2025 board, you have to pursue this one to its extent.
I agree. I think that's yeah.
All right, should we talk about this prospect of the day?
I want to see this. You said you loved it, so I want to see it.
Loved it. Oof, I'm all over this one. All right, so the prospect of the day today is a linebacker out of Rome High School by the name of Jaden Harmon. Now, I saw Jaden for the first time as a true freshman, and he was playing running back wearing number 10. And my first thoughts at watching him that day, he'd already had a Penn State offer. He'd already had Power 5 offers as a running back. My first immediate thought was, this kid's not a running back. He's going to be too big. He needs to start playing linebacker. And since that day, I think his sophomore year he played both ways, and now he's almost exclusively – he'll probably play some running back this year for Rome, but is exclusively branding himself as an inside linebacker. And boy, oh boy, is this tape phenomenal. And by the way, no Georgia offer. I don't know if that's the new theme, but no Georgia offer here. But I think this is some of the best linebacker tape that we're going to watch this year.
I like the sound of that.
So let's do it. A little unmutage of the microphone. Make sure I'm hot over there.
You good?
Don't want to be out here messing folks up. All right, so here he is out here on the edge. And you can see, hey, I'm a swag guy. If you put that shit on, I already know you're a baller. You know what I mean? We got the single sleeve over here. We got the spat. All right, and there's a visor on that joker, too. I think he plays with a towel, too, so we're all over it. Ugh. Overhand swipe on the running back, strip sack, and gets the ball down. So we got some positional awareness, right? I love seeing skill sets, right? How many different tricks of the trade do we have? That's a great one-on-one beat right there on the running back as that guy tries to pick him up off the edge as the free hitter. This was the best play he made right here. This is nuts, okay?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. The football knowledge and IQ here is insane. All right, so here's what's happening. We got a corner here from the number one receiver. They're in cover 3. We all see this, right?
Yeah.
Safety in the middle of the field. This corner's dropping here. This corner's dropping here. So this corner has responsibility for this deep third down here on the bottom, which means the only one stopping this comeback is if for some reason this hook defender, being Jaden Harmon here, turns and runs his ass all the way out to this 15 back down to 12 comeback here. And that's exactly what he does. Full extension, full layout. And here's the other thing that I love. And this is the only way this play happens. Watch his eyes, ladies and gentlemen. On his drop right here, watch him turn. All right, he collisions number 1 right here. Boom. Puts his eyes directly on number 2, not looking at the ball. You see a lot of young guys make this drop with their eyes on the quarterback trying to see the decision. He's not doing that because he knows the fastest way and the only way I'm getting to this point is if I put my head down and I run. That's exactly what he does. Now, after 2 or 3 strides, snaps his head back around to find the football, then the full extension layout, ball outside of the framework of the body, picks it off with his hands. Okay?
I don't think people understand how impressive of a play that is.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, buddy. No offer. No offer.
I'm just gonna be quiet on this one.
Yeah, buddy. We're only 3 plays in. It's like this the rest of the highlight as well. It's absurd what this guy put on tape this year at Rome High School. That's him off the edge. You see the twitch, and now he's going to pursue the football and strike. There's power in the pads, man. We uncoil the hips really well. I would imagine this is a really, really elite power cleaner at Rome High School. If you told me he's north of 315 on the clean, I wouldn't be surprised. And you get to see him rush as well. He plays with good pad level off the edge and good bend there in his hips and his ankles. He's a thick kid, particularly in them black jerseys. I don't know what it is about them black jerseys. They just end up looking bigger and bigger every year. Plays underneath the down block right there.
That's insane.
What was really insane is his hand placement. Once he recognizes the down block, watch his inside left hand. Watch his left hand. As soon as he feels this down block from this wide receiver right here, he's going to fire that left arm up underneath this armpit of this tight end and get inside that. Bam! Right there. That left hand sticks back up. That's what keeps that guy. Yeah, dip and rip essentially. But we're doing it in space, so it's even more difficult right there. This is the impressive part. His ability to play out here in space at 6'1", 230 pounds.
Bro.
Like, that's Pebblebrook, too. There's a ton of speed on that field right there for that football team. The reason I went to check the tape is because I saw him at the Under Armour event, and he's flashing, like moving around, looking tremendous at 6'1", 230 pounds, and just his body patterns. I'm a big body pattern guy. Like, if you move really well, I'm going to follow you the rest of the day. And this was one of those football players. Ooh, get me right excited right here, Kirby Smart. A little special teams clip right there, finishing.
He's dicking on Creek View.
One thing I've noticed over the years about Rome High School football players, they play through the echo. They play so hard every single time I study them. And the reason being, they practice hard. I went out to a spring practice this year at Rome High School, boys. No, it wasn't. It was last year I went to an right before, up there on a Thursday, right before they're playing Carrollton. It's Thursday afternoon. What do you normally do on Thursdays in high school football?
Bro, you're doing walkthroughs and shells, if anything.
Walkthroughs and shells. And most teams, they didn't put shells on their helmets, and that's it, right? Dude, they were out here doing goal line period. Goal line period, full pass, out here smack attacking. Jeez. And I leave the offensive coordinator, who's now the head coach at Warner Robins, and I said, Coach, y'all play Carrollton tomorrow. And he's like, bro, it's like this every day. We out here banging and clanging every single day at Rome High School. So you know you're going to get a physical football player that's not going to shy away from contact like this right here. That's against Cartersville.
Uh-oh. Not the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, no, he fitting to kill somebody.
Let's see, who was it?
Body bag. Oh, no.
Oh. Good play, though. Shouts out to Sequoia High School.
Good Lord, man. I'm all over it.
I was going to say, it looks like Skip Pope.
And here's the deal. He doesn't have – let me look. He doesn't have an offer from Georgia, but just because you don't have an offer doesn't mean you're not, take-worthy, or at least somebody that they're evaluating. So let me look here. What's up?
What was his name?
Jaden Harmon. All right, yeah, they have a grade on him. They're evaluating him. They just haven't offered him. Huh. And maybe this is the case in 2025 where you try to sign Zayden Walker and then you just call it a day, because the room is loaded.
The
room's crowded, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, you still got after this year, another year of Raylan Wilson and C.J. Allen and all the guys you signed in that class, and then it's the class you got this year. You're going to have 2 more years after this year. So, yeah, you got plenty of depth and plenty of years left in that room at both positions, both inside and outside.
Any thoughts on Jaden Harmon?
Might be one of the, like you said, one of the more insane tapes we've put on so far.
Yeah.
Like usually with athletes,
that was Justin Williams-esque for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except Justin's 6'3".
Yeah.
So it's a
But
little
like
different.
usually
And
with
it's a
like
sub 10.7 100-meter runner.
usually with high school tapes like that, you can go like, okay, you know, there's footwork dies, or maybe he's not necessarily, he's a one-trick pony. He's doing it all.
Clean.
He's doing it all.
Very clean.
That play where he's a hook curl defender and has the wherewithal to run into the
Underneath
zone
the curl.
That's a Madden lurk.
because
dude.
because he sees number 2 going vertical. That's an insane play.
Yeah.
Like almost always they teach you to turn your head back inside
Yep.
and just kill whatever's coming
Or
across.
square your shoulders and settle.
Yeah, to have the wherewithal to go, oh, there's a hitch going on outside. Let me go pick that off. That's insane. Like people,
Full layout, ball away from your body.
yeah, I don't think people understand how insane of a play that is.
I haven't seen a college guy do that in a while.
No, like that's incredible.
Just a special football player with no offer. It's so crazy, man. It's so crazy. And again, look, I don't do this to question because, like, look who we're talking about. We're talking about Glenn Schumann, right? But I think it just goes to tell you, like, hey, it's just how talented the room is right now. It's just how talented the position is across the board. Should we play Coach Brooks?
Let's hear it, Coach
Yeah, I
Brooks.
wanna
know
see
just
Coach
left
Brooks.
The board, but let's play Coach Brooks. All right. I hope this works. Yeah, it's on. All right. Give me that YouTube clip. Okay. All right. So here's what's going on here today. I was at the Under Armour event out in, is this the YouTube one?
Yeah.
We're sure? That don't look like a YouTube player. Huh. Oh, that's it right there. All right. So here's how this is going to work. We're only coaching offensive line today during this segment. I'm only going to talk about these big boys. Give me that keyboard because it doesn't look like this is working. All right, so we're going to treat this like I'm coaching the room. All right, like we're in a meeting room right now and we're going to hang out. First of all, let's watch this big boy rep against Malik Autry right here. This is our guy, Bo Ball. I'm going to tell you right now, what we don't need to be doing as offensive linemen is immediately removing our stagger from rep 1. What do I mean by that? We like to play with our inside foot up. Put me over here in 1. We like to play with our inside foot up and our outside foot back, right? We want to play with a stagger, okay? We want to play with this right here, with our inside foot up, protecting against any inside move, and our outside foot back so we can continue in that kick slide phase right there. From the snap right here, Bo Ball brings his feet to balance, brings his feet to even, okay? Right there off the snap, we just suck up our left foot and we bring our feet to even. That's immediately going to take us into a walk back position. If we don't play with a good stagger, we're going to be susceptible to a bull rush, which is exactly what happens to Bo right here. Where we lose the rep is where we lose our inside step. Watch our inside foot right there. Boom, we kick back, and now all of a sudden we're talking about getting walked back, right? This is what getting walked back looks like. Malik doing a great job of getting to our hands as well. Once we lose our hands and now he's on the edge of our body, we're in bail mode. We just got to get our hands to our hip and run him past the line of scrimmage. But I thought there was 2 major mistakes right there. 1, removing our stagger off the snap, and 2, losing that inside foot. Once we bump that inside foot back, we're cooked. Okay? On to our next rep. This is a great rep from Dontrell Glover right here on the next one. We overset a little bit, get a little bit too overextended over our body. I'm going to tell you right now, as a center, when we miss hands, when we go to throw hands and we miss on that initial strike, we're probably going to lose the rep. We just don't have enough space to recover right there. But I thought Dontrell did a great job on this next set of making sure we get into his body quickly. Watch this quick set here from Dontrell. Watch him. He doesn't even really take a step. He just kind of, boom, just kind of sets his feet. He's like, all right, I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to make this guy play through me to the line of scrimmage. And that's exactly what happens. The guy tries to play inside his body. Now, here's where the rep gets really, really great from Dontrell, the kid out of Langston Hughes right here. Where are his hands, boys?
Outside.
His hands are outside. That is not where we want to be. So what do we got to do? We got to reset our hands, which means we got to take our hands outside. Boom. We got to fire him back inside, try to get inside the tits. That's exactly what he does right there. Now, this defensive lineman right here, Vidney Cleveland from Mississippi, doing a great job of playing with good lean, right? And not really giving chest, right? If we're going to throw hands, let's make sure we get skinny here. Doing a great job, but eventually Dontrell sets those hands back out, stays with a good wide base It's a tremendous rep right there from the young offensive lineman. Okay, here we go. Cameron Cullins versus Zayden Walters. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, our chest is way too far out over our toes. Okay, we are not playing with big chest. We're not playing with our gluteus maximus engaged. What do I mean by that? Here we go. Put me in one. This is my gluteus maximus. This is not engaged. This is engaged. Y'all see them? Yeah, buddy. Y'all see them girls doing all them little, what do you call them, bar curls where they're unrolling them hips?
Hip thrust.
We got to play with our hips engaged. Hey, everything good in life happens with our hips. Don't lie. All right, babies, happens with our hips. Okay, dance moves happen with our hips. Offensive line happens with our hips. If we play with our hips back and not engaged, we are going to lose most of our reps, okay? We're going to get pushed back. We got to be able to engage them glutes, man. That's why we do all them power cleans. That's why we do all that stuff. Also, inside foot. Inside foot, same thing we talked about with Bo on the other side. Watch this inside foot right here. Right there, boom, we lost. We have given up inside contain. We have given up inside pressure. He is going to walk us no matter what. No matter how big and strong we are, even if we did engage our core and roll our hips, we probably would have got walked back because we gave up our inside foot. Okay, I still think this is bad body lean. Okay, we shouldn't play like this.
Looks almost overextended.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's the definition of overextended. When our chest is over our toes as an offensive lineman, we are susceptible to pulls, okay? Not bulls, pulls, which is exactly what he loses to right here. Cam Collins notices, and he's trying to rip him down and go over the chest. I promise you, or over the top. I promise you right now, if we had shoulder pads on, this would look way, way worse for the offensive line because he'd actually have a shell to grab onto to yank us down. So we really got to fix that as an offensive lineman, and here's the issues. The issues are we're tightening our ankles, we're tightening our hips. Okay, so if we do a little Saigon squat every single day, we ought to feel a little bit better about ourselves there.
Why don't you show us what a Saigon squat?
Hey, baby, don't test my hips. Don't test my hips out here. Okay, Saigon squat, you can do it hands on the head or where? Saigon squat, okay? We want to be able to keep our heels on the ground, okay? We want to get past parallel with our heels remaining on the ground. We don't want to be picking our heels up or sticking our butt back. You ain't know I had it like that, did you? We out here with them loose hips, dog. We still got to use it or lose it. All right, we had to play loose. We had to play loose and low. Same thing I felt here with the inside foot. Inside foot gives up contain. Here's the deal. This is Zion Grady across from you. As offensive lineman, we got to be able to scout the guy in front of us. Okay, Zion Grady about 6'4", 227. I think is what he measured in that. So really thin, explosive athlete. Probably ran one of the faster 40s in this event. Okay, at this Under Armour event. So you know he's going to be baiting you with speed. So the number one thing you can't do is overset him because he's going to either speed to power you or inside counter you, which is exactly what happens right here on this rep. So here's what I love to see from Aiden right here. First set, maybe overset him a little bit, right? Got outside of his framework on that first rep. Let's go to this one right here, okay? On this first rep right here, overset him just a tad. Come on, man. Don't be fast forwarding too far back. This one right here, that's Cam Collins or Zayden Walters again. Oh, we just must have got a half a rep. Here we go, okay? There it is. Once we get our left instep, once that gets past the midline of his body, we have technically overset. How's the chat liking this, by the way?
Seem to be liking it pretty well.
Okay.
They haven't said turn this shit off yet. So.
Attaboy. All right, so this is a better rep right here of not oversetting him. See how we're still playing with that good inside body lean? Mm-hmm. We're playing on the inside, playing what we call half a man as an offensive line. We don't want to play the whole body. We want to pick that inside left pec and play that, right? We want to play that inside pec, okay? Great job, but here's the deal. Once we get him to decide he's going to run the hoop, do not. He's got his hand on his hip right here. That's where he bends, man. If we get a hand on a hip, we win. Okay, do not take that inside hand off that hip, which he did. See, we lost that left hand off that hip, and now he's running that edge on us. He's got a hand on the turf. He's actually going to bend the hoop on us. But if we stay with that hand on that hip and just believe in our technique and run him by, we might be able to run him past the launch point. Now, I'm going to skip over these Isaiah Gibson reps, not because Isaiah Gibson didn't dominate this kid, but this kid had no chance, all right? Isaiah Gibson did a great job of understanding, hey, they haven't gone on 2 at all. Like at this point, it's like rep 7, rep 8. They have not gone on 2. So Isaiah Gibson just gets down and does this. Watch this. He moved way before the other guy, right? He moves right on Hut and does it for 2 reps in a row. This poor Jackson Hughes ain't got a chance to stop this speed rush here from Isaiah Gibson. I would have liked to see an overhand swipe here from Isaiah. Okay, take that inside hand right now, and we gotta get over the top of those hands from that offensive lineman. Okay, but if we can't get out of our stance, all right, we're going to lose. We're going to lose. I wonder if the chat's going to pick up on the two dudes standing behind in that little video right there. You seen them?
Seen them.
You've been seen, sir. All right, Caleb. Oh, I'm going to tell you right now, hey, we got him. We're on 2 right here. We finally went on 2. Coach right here, offensive line coach, is like, damn, he saw the same thing I saw. We got guys getting messed up. Down said, oh. Down said, hut, oh. And where'd that flinch go, Curb? Where's he going? Look at that little flinch right here from Caleb Bell. Where is he working? If I'm this offensive lineman staring at this guy doing that right there,
Oh, he's going inside.
you bet your ass he's going inside. So let's quick set him, or at least let's move our inside foot first. Let's do something. He's definitely going inside. Why overset him is the question right here. Pay attention, man. Don't just be a robot out there. Pay attention to what's happening in front of you. We gave up the inside move even when he telegraphed the inside move, man. Come on. Do not overset here on the inside. We have no reason to do so. We lose that rep right off the kick set. Now, this was a tough rep here for this Eric Kirkpatrick kid against this nose tackle on this next rep. Okay, let's go ahead, hurry up. All right, this Benjamin Corhey guy, or excuse me, this Talib Graham kid, very undersized kid trying to play nose tackle here. So what I would suggest if I walked out as a center and saw a 250-pound guy in front of me, 240-pound guy in front of me in a one-on-one situation, understand that he's not bull rushing you.
No, he's not.
We do not need to be susceptible or fearful of the bull rush. What we need to be is super patient, because what he's trying to do is bait us to counter us, right? He's trying to get us to throw hands so he can overhand swipe. He's trying to get us to throw hands or overcommit to one side so he can get back to the other. It's a tremendous overhand swipe from this defensive lineman. It's a great rep from him. But here's what I love about Benjamin Corhey right here. Watch this adjustment from him. What he's going to do is he's going to get fake hands. Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that right hand kind of fake stab into his right chest? What he's trying to do is get this defensive lineman, who he has now realized is never going to bull rush me, trying to get him to commit or dictate what he's going to do. He ultimately goes to the spin and he keeps hands on. What's up?
Yeah, it almost looks like that first rep he's late to start, and it just blows by him.
Correct. But I love watching a little faint hand action. That's why I video record all these things and go back and watch them, because I didn't notice this upon first viewing, that he's out here throwing a little false hand action to get his hand set at the right place and avoid that first move, avoid that first hand strike.
I love a big man crop top, even if it's inadvertent.
Here's what I love. I saw a bunch of, hey, big fellas, y'all watching this segment today, if you out here at one of these events and these tight shirts keep rolling up on that gut, quit pulling that shit down, man. Be proud of that gut. Let that sucker hang, dog. You worked all summer eating hamburgers and hot dogs, getting that puppy. Let that thing hang. All right, here we go. Travaris Dice. I love this kid from Langston Hughes. He looked like a grown-ass man. Well, about 35. Overset here. Overset here. Once we get past that midline, again, we have overkicked just a little bit. Be patient, man. Be patient. They essentially have two-way goes when you do this to them, because your guard's not kicking with you. So do not feel like you got to overset these guys. And I thought this was a great rep right here. This is a Grayson rep versus a Langston Hughes rep. 2 7A kids going at it. That's what patience looks like. That's what playing on his instep feels like as a right tackle or as a tackle in general. Okay, boom, right there. Play on that inside pec. That way when he does come back inside, we catch him on that inside hand, right? The only adjustment here, great job right there from Tavares, getting that hand back inside. Now let's get our chest back up over our toes and stop playing overextended, all right, which he does eventually.
Yeah,
right there, you saw it. You saw him bring his feet to balance right there after that third bull hop. What are you about to say there, Christian?
It wouldn't hurt to be more violent with your hands either. You can tell he catches him on that first initial contact.
Yeah, a little shit talk at the end, too. We love that. Tristan Lyles. All right. So, Gavin. I'm going to be honest with you, Gavin. And here's what I think gets overlooked a lot, particularly with offensive linemen. A lot of the issues that are that present themselves are mechanical or physical limitation issues. Okay, what do I mean by that? This kid clearly does not have good enough foot speed to be out here. Just look at his feet. Okay, look at his feet. This is I need to jump rope and run the ladder for 4 months type of football player, okay? They just don't move quick enough. They just don't move explosive enough. They kind of look lumbersome, all right? They look like they go toe, heel, getting out of the ground. Watch his heel pick up, right? Watch his heel pick up. We're just toe heeling the whole time. We're not, right? It looks and sounds like that when we're an explosive mover at this position. When we're toe heeling, we just don't have the foot speed quite yet to be out here left tackle. And you can see it 2 reps in a row. He just kind of gets ran by out here. So, Gavin, the first thing I would do, we're big enough, we're tall enough, I would get that foot speed picked up. We don't even have to coach the rep, really. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you, hey, I had an offensive line coach that used to tell me all the time, Brooks, he beat you by birth. God just favored him a little bit more than you. this would be one of those examples, right? Justice Terry. Ain't a man on this earth been favored more by the Lord. You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy. All right, so Gabe Smith, if I'm you, Bubba, there is no way in hell we're giving this guy any space. We're downset hut. We're going to get up in his grill immediately. We're going to swallow his space immediately. And he tried. He tried to quick set him 2 times in a row. That overhand swipe is filthy. It's coached perfectly. It's executed perfectly. And here's how you know. First of all, inside step. Okay, moved with the left foot first, left foot strike. Now we're going to bounce, get our weight off of us and into the air. And that inside hand is the vital portion. We got to get that inside hand to that left bicep first so we can ultimately get that right hand onto the backside of that elbow. Once we get that outside hand to that outside elbow, he is cooked. All right, immediately his left shoulder or his shoulders will go down and you will capture an edge on him immediately. So as an offensive lineman, the only way to avoid this is to make sure we get hands to the chest upon first fist strike, right? Or upon first strike. And like I said, we got to shrink the space. We got to get into him, not allow him to jump on us like that. I think he tries here. I think he does a good job at least getting out to him and staying patient. Like, we really don't gain ground there. We just kind of hold him right where he's at. All right, we got a whole lot more of this. We got 4 more minutes. If that's something you guys liked, we can continue to do that on to our next show, if you will. I think that's some of the good stuff right there. I would love to run one of those rooms one day, but just don't know if it's gonna happen. So
you'd love to run one of those rooms, but I don't think you'd love to do everything outside of running the room.
Yeah, no, I think what's gonna end up happening is in like 10 years. I'm just going to go coach a high school football team.
I could see that.
You know, and just get all the fixins of being a football coach without all the trouble of doing all the other nonsense. And
Who
nowadays,
knows, in 10 years, you might be dealing with that shit too.
I mean, yeah, but nowadays, dude, you can make 6 figures being a head football coach in high school football.
Yes, you can.
And I think 10 years from now, I might be able to leverage one of my platforms into something like that. And it helps that I'm not just some slappy. Like, I've been out here talking ball for a long time.
Yeah.
By then, too. That'll be 15 years into the industry, 10 years from now. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Hey, appreciate you guys for being here today. We love you. We appreciate you. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review. We'll see you Thursday.